Refried beans, man.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, April 9th, 2020. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1232.
This is No Agenda.
Sniffing dirty data and broadcasting live from Opportunity Zone 33 here at the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're still awaiting the surge, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
I can barely fit the episode numbers in the intro anymore. It's a 1232. Maybe
1232.
Maybe I should just go to
1232.
It just sounds so big when you say hundreds.
You never say hundreds. You say 1232.
I say 1232.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. But I guess I should drop it now because I can't fit it in anymore. It's getting too long. Imagine when we're at 10,000. It's going to be crazy. Well, welcome, John, to the
It will be.
Welcome to the 6 Foot Society. That's what we are now.
I don't. What's the reference?
Oh, you're 6 feet of separation. It's the 6 Foot Society.
Oh, yes.
And I'm stealing this from the Meter and a Half Society, as proclaimed by the Dutch Prime Minister Rutte. Interesting that they basically only do 5 feet distancing.
Oh, my God. They're taking such a chance.
A meter and a half is not 6 feet. I'm sorry. So I don't know why that's not consistent. In fact, we've been duped. We've been had. We've been sold down the river. We've been screwed. We've been lied to. The data is junk. Everything we're being shown is based upon bullcrap data, inconsistent data, models that change not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. And I got to tell you, Fauci and Birx have fallen through the basket.
I thought I had a clip about this.
I got a number of clips about this.
About the new numbers? I will remind people that the initial numbers, and Trump has been condemned for this, the initial numbers were 2 million Americans dead.
Let's go to the videotape. And I'm surprised you didn't ask me about the term that Birx and Fauci have fallen through the basket, but I guess you just accepted that. I'm throwing a new...
Why did you use that term basket?
I'm throwing in a new Dutchism.
Really? What? Oh, it's a Dutch thing.
Yes.
You don't really want me just chiming in on every single word you use, I hope.
Of course. That's what I always expect from you. Anyway,
so they've fallen through the basket, both of them. Yes, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so that's the Dutchism. So the data is wrong. The models are wrong. The numbers are wrong. I'm not going to say anyone lied to us just yet, because that would mean it was really premeditated. I'm not sure about that. But let's go through a number of clips to show you what is incredibly wrong. And as you said, the 2 million number is what we started on, based on the model from Washington State. That's the Bill Gates-backed datahealth.org. And that was, even before the last show, they ratcheted that down to 200,000 and said, well, we didn't have the mitigation practices built into the model, which I believe that already is a lie, because I'm pretty sure it was sold to us as this is what's going to happen. But okay, we'll take that. We'll take it down to 200,000. As you know, as of yesterday, it's now 60,000 dead predicted in the United States.
But let's not forget the intermediate. They had 80.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's 4. They've had 4 changes. And so the president did his little show yesterday. He actually had a very good rapport with the journalist. There was not a lot of shouting back and forth. He even took a serious question from Jim Acosta from CNN, his arch nemesis, and treated it as a reasonable question.
Last week, your top experts were saying that we should expect 100,000 to 240,000 deaths in this country. You've been talking about how it looks like maybe things are plateauing. Are these numbers now being revised downward? I know you don't want people to stop social distancing and that sort of thing, but what can you tell us about the numbers? Are they being revised?
My impression, Jim, is those were the numbers that were set. and they were set as an expectation from quite a while ago. I think we're just doing much better than those numbers. If either of you would like to talk about that, it's a fair question.
Yeah, so Trump, of course, loves these numbers because he's managing against them. And that's what numbers are for. That's why you want a model. A model is not to be taken as the gospel, even though it's different in climate change, of course. But it's a dashboard. It's a dashboard. And he loves the numbers going down because it makes everything look good. Now let's hear the answer to the same question, this time from Dr. Birx.
Yeah, so I think many of you have done the analysis of the same models that we utilized. And if you do the models of the models, the
models of the models. I got to stop you right there. Horse shit. There's no models of the models. What you're saying is you're taking an average from 4, not 1, 2, 3, 4 flawed models and saying, oh, this is an average, and then you're saying that you modeled this. Horseshit.
Models that we utilized, and if you do the models of the models, you end up with that range. At the same time, we carefully looked at Italy and Spain, and we are doing much better in many cases than several other countries. And we're trying to understand that. We believe that our healthcare delivery system in the United States is quite extraordinary. I know many of you are watching the Act Now model and the IHME model and they have consistently decreased the mortality from over almost 90,000 or 86,000 down to 81,000 and now down to 61,000.
Yeah, how is that? What's happening? How can that be? What's going on?
That is modeled on what America is doing.
Bull crap. These models, starting with the 240,000 top level model from the IHME, was including mitigation measures. The guy said, I'm changing this. He did it for the UK and for the rest of the world. He said it's because mitigation is now built in. But no, now these numbers, which are flawed models and models of models, like the backup to the backup to the backup. No, that's for different reasons.
That's what's happening. And I think what has been so remarkable, I think, to those of us who have been in the science fields for so long is how important behavioral change is and how amazing Americans are in adapting to and following through on
the models didn't change. We changed. Congratulations. You changed the model.
These behavioral change.
I just want to stop for a second and just remind the audience who was, I would say, borderline in love with this woman just a few weeks ago.
Me, totally. Absolutely, because she's the only one giving out information. And now that we know that the information is bullcrap, she's the one telling us. So I still like her for that reason, because she has a very specific job. Her job is to communicate what's going on. So now it's very easy to see when she's lying. Whether I was enamored with her or not, I've paid attention to her, unlike all the media.
And that's what's changing the rate of new cases, and that's what will change the mortality going forward, because now we're into the time period of full mitigation that should be reflected within the coming weeks of decreasing mortality. I mean, that's what we really hope to see. We are impressed by the American people, and I think models are models. I've always worked on validating. I spent my life validating models all over the world, and that's why we do surveys and surveillance, and we make sure that what we think is right is right. I think this will change how people look at respiratory diseases, because it will change what is possible when the globe, and particularly the American people, do this level of mitigation. And I think, as I talked about yesterday, we are still in awe, really, of the American people's strength in this and following through.
Okay. Total lie. And she brings up the Italy numbers, the Spain numbers, which I thought was all settled. We all knew what was going on. And now we get an admission from Dr. Birx that indeed, and even though she doesn't understand what she's even saying in this clip, indeed, they're just marking every death as COVID-19. And she admits to that here, which
By the way, we recognized this in the show almost immediately.
Weeks ago.
Yeah.
Weeks ago, particularly with the Italian numbers.
There are other countries that if you had a pre-existing condition and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem. Some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that as a COVID-19 death.
Can you be sure? I mean, you hear from coroners that that's not necessarily the case. Or are you sure? How can you be confident about that? And is there any concern that it skews the data that you're trying to collect in terms of projections and things like that?
Well, I think that would apply more to rural areas that may not have the same level of testing. But I am pretty confident in New York City and New Jersey and places that have these large outbreaks and COVID-only hospitals. I can tell you they are testing. New York and New Jersey together have, by proportion, are testing extraordinarily well as Washington State and Louisiana. So I don't see that there's been a barrier in testing to diagnosis.
So if you test someone who died of something else and they have COVID-19, then you're marked as a COVID-19 death. There is clip after clip after clip, which I'm not going to play, of doctors, of hospital specialists saying we're coding these wrong. These deaths are being coded wrong. It's skewing the data. Now let's go talk to Chris Murray. This is the guy who created the the IHME Washington model, the Bill Gates guy. And he's not in line with what Birx is saying here. Recall, the model's changed because we're doing so well, because mitigation is doing so well, even though mitigation is supposed to be built into those models. Chris Murray was on Pooper the other night.
Can you just explain the new changes to your model? Because we've had you on before, and you've always pointed out as more information comes in, as more data comes in, the numbers will change. Why the lowering now?
So two key things we've been able to incorporate with all the influx of new data in the United States. First, we found out a lot more about hospital practice. And so what we're seeing is that hospitals, particularly in New York.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of tell clips. This guy is coughing, too.
What we're seeing is that hospitals, particularly in New York, but elsewhere in the country, are admitting fewer people compared to what the original data suggested. Compared to every death that we see, they're putting fewer people into the ICU, and there's lower ventilator requirements. So that's brought down the sort of shortage estimates quite a bit because of that new data influx. And the other big news is that...
I'm sorry. It's because of a new data influx. That's scientists speak for bull crap.
That new data influx. And the other big news is that we're seeing peaks in the epidemic in other places other than China, in Italy, in Spain. In fact, 7 different regions have seen the epidemic peak and come down, and that really informs our models about the impact and the effectiveness of social distancing.
Okay, it informs my model. My model is sitting there waiting for some information. Bull crap. And not anything about mitigation. No, this is about the numbers. So he's not agreeing with what Dr. Birx just said. Moreover, his model has very different presumptions. Remember, they have mitigation built into the models. We're working on an April 30 timeline. Could be extended, but that's it, April 30. Let's check in with Chris Murray and see what his model is actually based on.
Dr. Murray, there's 2 questions. Do you know, why the White House's numbers have been higher than yours? When your model was saying 80,000, this is a while ago, that's when they came out with the 100,000 to 240,000 figure. Do you know why their numbers have been higher?
So in our models, we are building in the assumption that social distancing is going to stay in place till we hit the sort of threshold when we think the first wave is essentially over. And we use a number, which is 0.3 deaths per million people in the U.S. So basically 60 deaths in the United States in a day would be that threshold. And that should come first week of June. And so we're building in the assumption that social distancing is in place until then. we will start to release, hopefully later this week or by the weekend, what might happen if we take social distancing off before then. And we're pretty confident we'll just see a rebound of the epidemic if that's what was to happen.
So his model is based on mitigation all the way through May, up until June. So the numbers really don't make sense. But it doesn't matter because Bill Gates is really happy with Fauci presenting all these great numbers to the American people. Beware of the tell.
Well, if we do the social distancing properly, we should be able to get out of this with a death number well short of that. It's very important that those numbers are out there because a lot of people are still thinking, hey, isn't life normal? Not waking up every day to a completely new reality. And so I was very glad that those models are out there. Dr. Fauci's doing a very good job.
There it is.
There it is.
Fauci's very good job.
Dr. Fauci's doing a very good job of saying the numbers are what count here. And, the various models that we, Imperial University, do show that without this dramatic behavior change, you could even get worse than that.
So these models and these people in particular, and let's make sure we know they're all connected, World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Fauci through being on advisory boards, and Birx on advisory boards with the Gates Foundation. One of her daughters works for the Gates Foundation. There is Fauci in vaccination trials with the Gates Foundation and the NIAID. Let's just keep those connections for now. Who gave them the authority to shut the country down? Well, the data did. This flawed data, and Trump confirms this.
Again, when you look, the question was just asked about how are we doing compared to projections. Those were just original projections. The big projection being 2.2 million people would die if we did nothing. That was another decision we made. Close it up. That was a big decision that we made. Two very smart people walked into my office and they said, listen, these are your alternatives. And that was a projection of, I guess, 1.5 to 2.2 million people would die if we didn't close it up.
So two people came into his office, so Fauci and Birx. They showed the models. They said, we're all going to die. And the president made the only decision he could at the time based upon this complete horse crap data.
Your alternatives. And that was a projection of, I guess, 1.5 to 2.2 million people would die if we didn't close it up. That's a lot of people. So if we do a number that's tremendously smaller than that, now if we did close it up, the numbers got to 100 to 220 million people. So if we can stay substantially under the 100, which was the original projection, I think we all did a very good job.
And so Trump, of course, the only way out is to beat the numbers, and he knows he's got it made. It's in the bag. 60,000 deaths total in the United States is equal to the 2017-2018 flu season, 61,000 people.
Yeah.
So, it's like...
And who knows how many of these are flu, too. Now, I should mention a couple of things. The Democrats aren't seeing it this way. Trump didn't listen to the experts, and he was way too late on shutting down everything.
Yep. In
fact, there's a lot of messaging, and I want people to be very cognizant of this. And it's not just a little bit of messaging. This is a last desperation hope, by the way, for the Democrats. But the messaging is everywhere, and the messaging is consistently the same. Not enough was done soon enough. Of course, he was supposed to be doing all this right in the middle of the impeachment.
Oh, yes.
But even when I was watching, and I have one clip that backs this up, and I could have gotten a lot more, and I'm going to start collecting them because they're all over the place.
Because they are collectible.
They're very collectible. And you know me.
Yeah.
And France 24 had some girl, they were talking, she's had the thing over her face, and she's talking, and she's in Paris bitching about, she's saying, this situation's lasted way too long, and it didn't start soon enough. We should have addressed this sooner. So she's doing one of those, the joke of, the food here is terrible, or the prices are so high and the food is terrible. This, the running gag about the contradictory commentary. And And this is, you're starting to hear this. Oh, yeah, well, if Trump had done something sooner. Oh, Trump. And it's a known fact that Trump didn't do anything sooner. And meanwhile, of course, when he did shut down certain flights from China, everybody bitched at him for being a racist. And Nancy Pelosi did an ad in San Francisco saying, come to Chinatown. And that's all ignored, of course. This is very interesting politically, what they're trying to do here. But it's really aimed at Trump.
Do you have a clip? Because I have a clip of this exact narrative if you want to hear it.
I want to hear it.
This is, of course, Anderson Pooper, his opening monologue.
Good evening, everyone. There is a lot to get to tonight. Some potentially positive signs in New York, the epicenter of the fight to save infected people, and plenty of continued warnings about difficult days and deaths ahead. We're going to get to all of that. The White House Coronavirus Task Force press briefing ended a short while ago, and if you tuned into it hoping to hear from the country's top scientists, you were likely disappointed. What we mostly heard was the president. What we saw was a hijacking of the task force press conference by a president determined to rewrite the history of his early and reprehensibly irresponsible response to this virus. What the president showed us today is what the nation's top scientists have to deal with every day. A president who now uses these briefings as a re-election platform, an opportunity to lie, to deflect, to attack, to bully, and cover up his own deadly dismissals of the virus for crucial weeks. According to the president today, all governors are getting everything they need, and testing is now and always has been great. Reporters who asked fair questions but didn't kowtow or suck up to this president were attacked and belittled, and a special venom was reserved for a career official at HHS who he doesn't even know, who released a non-political study with extensive interviews with doctors and hospitals across the country describing the lack of supplies and insufficient testing and mixed messages they've been getting from the federal government, all things that have been reported on. I just have to point out, this is not normal. And it matters because this is life and death.
That's exactly.
I'm sorry, but I can't top that one.
I was lucky to find it, but it jumped out at me like, wow, I should probably make a clip out of this. So there's a couple of actual huge media warfare arenas going on right now. This is one, obviously. It's not working too well for the opponents of the president because his poll numbers appear to be doing quite well. And I think the country, maybe the world, but the country certainly is feeling a little bit better today because the numbers seem to be going in our favor, whether it was flawed numbers to begin with or not, doesn't matter. Most humans are very bad at interpreting data, certainly graphs, and there's a lot of statistical bullcrap that is thrown in there.
Well, I want to interrupt you and say that's true, but they're not stupid about interpreting reality.
Right.
And I will say that if the two newsletters ago, the link I had to the video about the COVID-19 hospitals all being empty and most of this being staged,
right,
for the New York specifically, but the New York media pushing it the most, that these hospitals were jammed. They were jammed with people. Now we're, of course, seeing videos of hospital staff dancing around, but they're jammed with people. Those videos have all been taken down by YouTube.
Oh, and do you know how hard it is to find anything on YouTube in general right now? Just searching, I was looking for actually a Biden interview. Almost impossible to find if it contains the word COVID, Corona, or you name it. So the fight that is going on has been going on for several weeks. The fight that is being pushed against so hard. It's, of course, if the president says, I like this, a lot of people in the media and certainly political opponents immediately say, oh, we have to go against this. And this is hydroxychloroquine with the combination of Z-Pak, antibiotics, some other things that appear to be working. Trump keeps pushing it. He's setting the country up just in case it works. And although anecdotally we hear it does, so he's pushing this continuously. This is his latest effort.
As American industry steps up to help, so are America's doctors and scientists. 10 drugs are now in clinical trials, and my administration is taking unprecedented actions to make new therapies and treatments available without delay. The doctors, the lab technicians, the companies, I spoke to them yesterday, I spoke again today. They are coming up with things that are, I hope, in the very near future are going to be very, very special, very important. Our national stockpile is now equipped with nearly 30 million hydroxychloroquine pills. So we're up to about 30 million. We're distributing them by the millions. You read about State Representative Karen Whitsett, who I very much appreciate her going public, but she was, I think, very, very much helped by this pill. She saw what I was saying on television. She thought she was in very bad shape. I don't want to go further than that, but you see her story, you know her story. She's a highly respected state rep from Michigan. The azithromycin and zinc, they say zinc. You should add zinc. Now, this all has to be recommended by doctors, physicians, but they say zinc. I want to throw that out there because that's where they seem to be having the best result. So you add the zinc and the azithromycin, and it's been we've had a lot of good stories, and we have almost 30 million doses. So we've got a lot. I want to thank Prime Minister Modi of India for allowing us to have what we requested from before the problem arose, and he was terrific. We'll remember it.
So that's an important point. With the world now going after hydroxychloroquine, India was actually holding back all shipments. Most of it is manufactured in India. They were holding it back, but Trump put in the call and said, yeah, we need it. And Modi said, you got it. You heard all of the different data points there. The most interesting one is this Michigan, I think she's a state representative, Karen Whitsett, in Detroit. And Michigan is one of, I think it is the state that the governor said illegal to sell hydroxychloroquine. All in against the president. This is no good. You can't have this. We're forbidding the sale of it. Here is a short clip done herself of this mesh.
Well, actually, Nevada was the guy. That was the governor who was really no, you can't use it under any circumstances. I forbid it.
I'm pretty sure.
Michigan, I don't know that they were adamant. Maybe.
Well, now I got to look it up. I'm pretty sure it was. Well, I'll let you listen to the clip and hear what she says.
I really want to say that, you have to give this an opportunity. And for me, it saved my life. That I honestly believe that once I got into something like that, I may not actually come out. And that was my biggest fear. And I knew that this medication would possibly save me. If President Trump had not talked about this, it would not be something that's accessible for anyone to be able to get that right now. It would not even be possible. And I mean that honestly, because I did have a difficult time even that day obtaining the medication because of an order that was put down in my state.
Headline: Michigan governor who banned anti-coronavirus drug touted by Trump now asking for shipments of it. It was banned by her. And you hear this state rep saying it was even hard to get it, but it saved her apparently. Now, this
governor's got to go.
So
you're suggesting she's going to be the vice president candidate with Biden.
Well, good. Bring her in. Bring her in. There'll be some fun questions during the debate. So let's look at some other M5M opinions on this hydroxychloroquine, shall we?
Fauci's saying those studies are not scientific, and chloroquine, a drug used to treat malaria and lupus, also carries cardiovascular risks. But the president continues to endorse the drug.
President Trump is asked, what do you have to lose? Medical experts say your life.
What do you have to lose?
Well, potentially you could lose your life.
Experts say there isn't enough clinical data to show it's effective for coronavirus, and it has some serious side effects.
They continue today to push hydroxychloroquine in a way that is baffling to medical professionals.
Gene Robinson, you write in the Washington Post, the one word that proves why President Trump should not be president. What is it?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Okay, so it appears the media is somewhat against this. What they're for, we'll get to in a moment. And it's gotten so bad during the daily coronavirus task force briefings, the president is now just intervening.
And would you also weigh in on this issue of hydroxychloroquine?
What do you think about this? And what is the medical evidence?
That question?
Yeah.
Well, maybe 15.
The doctor.
15 times. You don't have to ask.
He's your medical expert, correct?
He's answered that question 15 times.
So he's not even letting Fauci answer anymore because Fauci is very, very cagey. And he's like, well, it's kind of here, it's kind of there. I mean, he's playing he's kind of playing his role. Meanwhile, here is Professor Dr. Governor Cuomo in New York kind of admitting without really saying it that it kind of works.
Drug trial of hydroxychloroquine and chlorine going.
We have... Well, that's your New York media. They're still a little behind.
Hydroxychloroquine.
She's still working on chlorine. Yeah, but this is the level of reporting that you're getting. So remember, garbage in, garbage out.
Drug trial of hydroxychloroquine and chlorine going.
We've allowed usage of the hydroxychloroquine with the zithromycin pack in hospitals at their discretion. There has been anecdotal evidence that it is promising. That's why we're going ahead. Doctors have to prescribe it. There are some people who have pre-existing conditions where it doesn't work, or they're taking medication that's not consistent with this treatment. But anecdotally, it's been positive. We'll have a full test once they have a large enough sample and data set, Jesse. But anecdotally, it's been positive. And if we get an additional supply, we can, which the federal government says they're going to send. I'm going to mention it to the president, actually, when I call him this afternoon with the comfort. I'm going to make a note right now. If they increase the supply, we can lift the 14-day limit ban.
It's so wrong, so dumb that the president is recommending this, that Governor Cuomo is ordering more, likes to have more, is lifting the ban on people getting it because he has more. The media is not serving you in this case.
The media is hurting you, and people like the Robinson columnist over at the WAPO is really should be ashamed of himself.
Axios said that they found out from an inside source there was an Axios is an NBC Comcast owned website property news. Yeah, well, Axios, we're so cool. They reported on a big fight behind the scenes in the coronavirus task force between Fauci and Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is the guy who is responsible for really a lot of the coordination of all of the assets. And it's what he does. He's very good at it, historically speaking. And apparently, Peter Navarro said, hey, man, I'm going to make sure people get hydroxychloroquine because it's worth the shot. What have we got to lose? And Fauci was pushing back apparently much harder than he usually does on screen, to which Navarro said, screw it. We're just doing it. We're getting it done. That leaked out, and this became some international fracas. And Peter Navarro defends what happens. I think this is CNN.
I want to play you something that Dr. Anthony Fauci has said about hydroxychloroquine. Sure. Listen.
Sure. The data are really just at best suggestive. There have been cases that show there may be an effect, and there are others to show there's no effect.
Okay.
So I think in terms of science, I don't think we could definitively say it.
All right. So why is Dr. Anthony Fauci, the lead infectious disease doctor in the country, wrong about this, in your opinion?
Sure. I let him speak for himself, John, but I would have two words for you: second opinion. And in terms of the studies that exist, I think you would grant me that there are numerous studies on this which show preliminary therapeutics.
I know three. Hang on, Peter.
John,
I have to ask a question. I let you go to 4 points in the beginning. I just want to follow. You're saying a second opinion here. What are your qualifications to weigh in on medicine more than Dr. Anthony Fauci? Why should we listen to you and not Dr. Fauci?
Said the a-hole who does this 24 hours a day on the a-hole station that questions it all the time.
Well, let me suggest, John, that later in the day you have William Grace on, another famous doctor in the city of New York. He can talk eloquently about this. But, John, doctors disagree about things all the time. My qualifications in terms of looking at the science is that I'm a social scientist. I have a PhD, and I understand how to read statistical studies, whether it's in medicine, the law, economics, or whatever.
I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify you to treat patients. You know it doesn't qualify you to treat patients. The difference that you are making and the difference that you are taking, the additional step you are taking, is as a social scientist with no medical training, is you are now saying that you think it works, while Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is an infectious disease doctor who has been running the top infectious disease agency for decades, says we don't know if it works.
Scientific studies that I have seen point to the possibility that it has both therapeutic efficacy as well as possible prophylactic efficacy. And one thing I would ask you to do, John, is you speak to these doctors and nurses and other people at the front lines, ask them how many of them are taking hydroxy as a prophylactic.
I've heard this anecdotally, quite a few are doing this. But okay, it's the mainstream's job to push against whatever these guys doing.
I want to stop you. You're getting into the habit of picking up the lingo of these guys and their bullshit. To say I've heard anecdotally.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, dude.
I did that
on purpose.
But of course, it's redundant to say I heard.
Thank you for the English lesson.
Means I heard.
Thank you for the English lesson. Did you understand what I was saying?
Yeah, you've heard, apparently, a lot of the doctors and nurses are using this stuff, which may be why they're dancing around so much.
Exactly.
Because they seem pretty happy.
Now, the reason that this pushback is coming, and this is the final piece of my presentation, more or less, is a disagreement between, obviously, unproven, we don't know if it works, crazy Trump, he's killing people, drinking fish cleaner. Ignore the person who lived, ignore the actor who lived, ignore the doctors who were taking it as a prophylactic. No, we want vaccines.
Of course.
We're waiting for the vaccine.
Money. It's the money.
And it's a little bit beyond the money, but I think I can explain this. First, we need to really get the idea of how the medical community is going against this is to listen to Zeke Emanuel. Zeke Emanuel was a huge part of the Ebola response and the Zika response during the Obama administration. Worked, of course, very closely with Fauci. Fauci was the same guy who was there. Just listen to his view on where we're at and how we can get back to work.
Is all that economic pain worth trying to stop COVID-19? The truth is, we have no choice. If we prematurely end that physical distancing and the other measures, keeping it at bay, deaths could skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands, if not a million. We cannot return to normal until there's a vaccine. Conferences, concerts, sporting events, religious services, dinner in a restaurant, none of that will resume until we find a vaccine, a treatment, or a cure. One thing I've learned as a cancer doctor is that it's wrong to paint an overly rosy picture in order to maintain a patient's hope. It's wrong because it fails. It's false. Biology and disease are formidable opponents that inevitably tell us the truth. We cannot relieve the oppression of this pandemic until we are realistic. We need to prepare ourselves for this to last 18 months or so and for the toll that it will take. We need to develop a long-term solution based on those facts. It has to account for what we are losing while this fight goes on. Things like schooling and income and contact with our friends and extended family. Lawrence, the crisis is not going to go away in a few weeks or after the 30-day plan comes to an end. Although COVID-19 is affecting us in different ways, we have to be up to it and fight together.
Very clear. 12 to 18 months, no school, no sporting events, no fun until we have a vaccine. He'll throw in a cure, but until we have a vaccine. That's what he's been saying. That is the word.
So this cure that the president is promoting to an extreme, it probably wouldn't have been promoted by any other president.
No.
I don't think Hillary or anybody would have done it. They just let people die. Hell with it. So you've got this cheap, by the way, the key to this, it's a cheap cure.
That's part of it.
And so the money is not there for the vaccine people. And, of course, the real smart money vaccine guys will have it. The vaccine only works for a short time. You have to have boosters.
I'd like to take you back to 12 years ago, maybe 10. One of the first, it was kind of like a pipeline moment for the show. There was a JP Morgan Chase investors conference.
Yes, you dug up. I'm going to give you the briefing. You dug up, which I thought was seminal, a report from JP Morgan showing that the vaccine business could be huge, a huge moneymaker.
It was the future.
And by the way, I want to interrupt this line of thought with they're learning a lesson during this moment because of this this cheap cure. They're learning a lesson that next time they try to pull a stunt, they being these folks, they should pull a stunt with a disease that they already have the vaccination for.
Well,
waiting in the wings.
I have a feeling, and I'll get to this, that this came too early. Obviously, in fact, when I think about what's happening right now, we kind of joked about it, but during the Obama administration, this is what we all expected. We expected martial law, lockdown, stay-at-home slave, take your shot. We joked about it endlessly, and here it is during the Trump administration. Just found that to be very interesting. Part of that report from JP Morgan Chase, it was Goldman was there, all the big investors, is that the future of the pharma industry was in vaccines for a number of reasons. One, you're giving something to people who aren't sick to start with. Big win. Two, this was not explicitly stated, but it's my own editorial. You do weaken people's immune systems in some cases. It's all good for the other. You want people with weakened immune systems to keep the pharmaceutical industry going. We want people to continuously need medication and care. The second part of vaccines, which is fantastic, is a very different FDA process. And with that comes indemnification. You are held harmless in this country if your vaccine does harm to someone. There is no way to sue a vaccine maker. There's ways to get some money. There's a fund for it to shut people up. So this is fantastic. And if you recall, during the years that this report came out, there were reports of a smoking vaccine, an anti-idiot vaccine. There was a vaccine for everything, which has nothing to do with a vaccine in the traditional sense of the word, where you have a virus, a dead virus, and you're injecting people with it. In fact, the COVID-19 vaccine has nothing to do with that. It is an RNA vaccine, has never been proven to work. It's a gene splicing exercise. Never been proven to work. It says in the documentation, this has never worked. It may not work. But that's what they all have their hopes on. And if you look at this type of information, how does it get into policy? As you said, no other president would be talking about hydroxychloroquine. They'd only be talking about the vaccine, most likely. Why? Policy is set by research institutions in the United States, around the world, really. Our models came from Washington, from the university. We have the trials being done in universities. And policy for the United States is set by universities where the smartest people in the world are supposed to be. One of those, very important, is at Harvard. Now, Harvard plays a big role in this because of their Event 201 pandemic exercise that ran 2 months before the real thing happened, and the similarities are uncanny.
That was Johns Hopkins for 201.
I'm sorry. I'm mistaken.
And Johns Hopkins, you said Harvard. Johns Hopkins is a key provider, and a spook central, by the way, a key provider of policy. The Harvard School of Public Health has traditionally been relied upon by governments, certainly ours, as a place where policy comes from, health policy. They set policy there.
The same goes to the media outlets. They all get the same news briefing. They all get the same, and it's considered a trustworthy source. And you might think it would be, unless you take into consideration how many professors were arrested for underhanded and illegal dealing with China at Harvard.
One full professor, I believe, and I think of some associates that are Chinese.
Yes, and one of them was a PLA member of the People's Liberation Army and had not reported that.
Lieutenant or something.
Well, in 2014, something changed at the Harvard School of Public Health. There was a donation that came in, $350 million, and it came in as a renaming donation. And I didn't know about this. Of course, why would I know? This is the School of Public Health. They set policy for governments, for media, and tell people what's going on. Yes, $350 million by the actually it was by Morningside, which is a venture fund / foundation. They put the $350 million in and got to the renaming rights for the Harvard School of Public Health is now the T.H. Chan Public School of Health, as this is a 100% Chinese investment, and the Chan family is, of course, completely linked to the Chinese Communist Party. They were very nice to put out a little video about how happy they were for this investment and the name change. They've got their fund manager, some old Brit, to tell us how extraordinary this really is.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, this one.
The Chan family's dedication to charitable works is well known and is very deep-seated. They are therefore extremely pleased, and their trustees are extremely pleased, to be able to make a very, very substantial donation to Harvard to establish the school on a permanent basis.
This school is about science, it's about policy, it's about economics, it's about organization of healthcare delivery. It's a very unique place where there is a mix of all of these fields of inquiry.
That's Gerald Chan you hear speaking himself there at the end. So very, very fantastic. What a great place. It's just a world institution. And the best part about it is they understand that vaccines is the only way to go.
If you look at the history of public health, you will find that the one innovation that had the largest impact on human health, that's vaccination.
So you may not know this, but vaccines are actually not big money makers. They're not like cancer drugs. They are important tools for protecting and saving lives. But as it turns out, many companies don't want to invest in vaccinology simply because the returns are just not big enough. Any investment has to be balanced against a return, but in this particular case, the return is measured in human lives, not simply the return of the investment.
Harvard is an amazing place. The gift will be responsibly handled and under visionary and strong leadership put to good use.
Now, to say that vaccines save the world is, I think, if you compare it to garbage men and plumbers, probably not the biggest saver of lives.
Well, advancement is the term he used.
Yeah, but
I think antibiotics are probably
antibiotics, right? But they're talking about lives, and there's no money in it. You hear it. There's not a big money maker. No, but that's not why the Chinese are interested in contrronling our public health policy.
Shouldn't there be money in it? Because the report, the J.P. Morgan report said there's tons of money in it. Don't you think that may be just a lie?
No, let me explain what I think. I'm talking about the Chinese. I'm talking about the pharma guys, because pharma guys love this. That's why they're all on board. They're the biggest advertisers. No one's going to go against them on TV. That's how it works on TV. The Chinese control their people. They control their people with technological dominance, which I would say they have a lot of that dominance here in our country as well. They control a lot more than we realize, right down to huge investments in Reddit and hello TikTok. They control people through technological dominance and vaccinations. They are the biggest creator and biggest consumer of vaccinations worldwide. I believe it is how they intended to certainly take over the United States, And it is still on because now we're going back to work. What you're hearing is the fight now is between vaccine, which we know we won't have for a long time, if ever. But again, it's an RNA, so it's something completely new. Or some kind of testing and a digital passport or certificate that says you have the antibodies, therefore you are immune, so you can go back to work. If you are not sick and don't have antibodies, you stay home until the vaccine comes. That's how it's going to be rolled out. And to prove my point that China has done this on purpose, and I'm not saying Xi, I'm not saying the CCP, I have a different thought about who in China is doing this and why this happened. They sent a message to Trump, and to me, it was the most obvious message in the world. I don't think anyone else picked up on it. You remember when they would send a heckler to Obama? What would we always say?
I don't remember what we always said, but we always noticed there was a heckler.
The heckler is just there to let you know we can get someone close to you.
Oh, right. They always, not just a heckler, they would invade his space.
Exactly.
With some stooge. And it was like the Secret Service couldn't do anything about it. And the message was, look, we can kill you at any point.
So Trump, as you know, has been in contact with Xi. I don't think Xi is directly responsible for this. He's been in contact with Xi. And yet this shows up at the White House briefing this week.
Thank you, Mr. President. Only last week, there were multiple flights coming from China full of medical supplies.
Yes.
Companies like Huawei and Alibaba has been donating to the United States
People
like
1.5
million and 95 masks and also a lot of medical gloves and much more medical supplies.
Sounds like a statement more than a question.
And Chinese Ambassador Cui Tiankai last night wrote an op-ed on New York Times calling to cooperation with the United States. So are you personally working directly with China?
We just signed a trade deal.
Also fighting with the
It's the biggest deal probably ever made. And I hope they're going to honor that trade deal. If they don't honor the trade deal, then I'll tell you a different answer. But I think they will. They're going to spend billions of dollars for agriculture. They're going to spend billions of dollars for many different things, whereas China never spent money in our country. We spent money. We had a trade deficit with China for years of $500 billion, $400 billion.
So just going to interrupt for a second. So what happens, this woman, she starts asking this question, but it's not a question. It's a statement saying, hey, China did all this good stuff. They brought masks. We're great. We're helping you out. How come you're not recognizing that? How come you're not saying that we're working together with China? As you heard the president say, it sounds more like a statement than anything. And it turns out
$1 billion. We had the biggest trade deficits in the history of the world with China. Now China's going to spend has agreed to spend $250 billion, many billions of dollars in our country, much of it going to farmers and manufacturers. So I'll let you know. I mean, I hope they're going to honor the deal. We'll find out.
With China, are you cooperating with China?
I don't know. Who are you working for, China? You work for China or are you with a newspaper? Who are you with?
Hong Kong Phoenix TV.
Who owns that, China? Is it owned by China?
Hong Kong.
No, is it owned by the state?
No, it's not. It's a private-owned company.
Okay, good. Okay. Look, I'll let you know. I'll give you a good answer to that in a few months. I wanted to see what they do.
So the Phoenix Broadcast Corporation, 100% Chinese Communist Party owned by a former security official of the Chinese Communist Party. So they put her in with this statement, just pontificating, and Trump feels it and he says, well, wait a minute. Who are you with? And she lies because she said, no, it's independently owned, total lie. But what was telling to me was his answer. His answer goes straight to the real cooperation between the United States and China, which is the trade deal, which started off just 4 days ago. But listen to Trump now about the trade deal. And you may remember this was signed in January. They already knew they had an outbreak in Wuhan in December. The last line of the $250 billion trade agreement said force majeure. If anything crazy happens, we can back out. We'll go sit down around the table and figure it out. So how is that going? It just started 4 days ago.
Because it's time for them to help us, okay? It's time right now for China to help us. And hopefully they do. And if they don't, that's okay too. But we signed a deal. It was signed with great goodwill and spirit. And it's time that our farmers benefited, our manufacturers benefited, and we'll see whether or not that deal is honored. And I think it will be, because I know President Xi, who I like and respect, and I think he will honor the deal he made with us. It just went into effect 4 days ago. I will see whether or not. In fact, I called up just a little while ago. I said, how are the farmers doing with respect to China? Are they buying the product as anticipated? And the answer was, yeah, I think so. But it wasn't the most positive, but it was starting. The deal just started. So I'll let you know. But, for many, many years, China ate our lunch because we had people in this position that I'm in right now that allowed China to get away with absolute murder. And it should have never happened. But we are now dealing with China. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
So the way I interpreted what the president said was, we'll see. It doesn't seem like they're doing a lot just yet. They may be doing a little bit, doing what they promised. And he says, we'll see if they honor that deal. But he has a good relationship with President Xi. So to summarize, and then comes the big crescendo and the payoff. I think that there has been a strategy by China for many years, and maybe not just for the U.S., but certainly for the EU, to take over with a combination of technological dominance and vaccinations, which allow you to control people literally where they can go without digital certificates, and just look at how that's integrated into their technology. And maybe that was a big part of the 5G, whatever they wanted. Clearly, if they intended to attack us with this virus, they botched it, because it didn't go the way they wanted to, and that the main reason is the vaccine's not ready. You got to have the vaccine ready, sanctioned through the T.H. Chan Harvard School of Public Health, before you can pull this off. So who calls me yesterday? Pachenik. Dr. Steve Pachenik gives me a call. He says, and I've never heard him say this, Adam, what's going on? I'm confused. I don't understand it anymore.
Wow.
And he was looking at something like an operation in the U.S. And so I lay this China idea on him. And he says, oh, my God. He says, Xi no longer has control. And I'll explain what he means. Here's a short clip I found.
Now, this is an interesting development because you were starting to see some pushback. There's a letter that's surfaced that apparently comes from within the ranks of the party talking about his leadership on this issue. So he's receiving some in-house criticism, if you will. Now, it's going to be very difficult for us as outside observers to see just how far this goes. But the fact that it's surfaced at all is very unusual for Chinese politics. So this is going to play out in an interesting fashion. Now, Chairman Xi is in control. He does run the party, runs the country, and all of the military and law enforcement within that country are under his control. So he's got a lot of power to push back on this issue.
So there's apparently some dissent in the ranks within the party, and some letter is circulating, highly irregular for this to happen within the CCP. So that's showing sorry to say, chinks in the armor. Chink in the armor. Wow, that was really funny. Here's what Pachenik said. Because I said, if Xi and Trump talk all the time, so he would know if Xi was double-crossing him, and it just doesn't sound like this is coming from the top. And Pachenik said, I have not been able to verify, check it, etc. He says, do you know who really runs China? And I said, no, of course not. CCP. He says, no, Muslims. He says the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, and their security services, which I think is called PBS, ironically, are mainly staffed and run by Chinese in the northeastern province, and he says they're Uyghurs. And they've been very unhappy with the economy that Xi set up, which Trump came in and has been screwing them for the past several years, well, really, past couple of years with the tariffs. And Xi lost control And I think if we add to that, that's the part I'd love to figure out. If the army and the security services truly are run by Muslim Chinese, the Uyghurs, there may be some issue with the Uyghurs down in the Southwest who are in a concentration camp. It's very possible that this was a rogue op by either the Chinese security services or the Liberation Army. But for sure, it was initially and originally intended for some kind of operation for basically the Chinese economic hitman. Instead of rubble-eyes, you kill the key people. And please note, there was a Chinese woman in December who wandered into Mar-a-Lago not once but twice. There was infections at the CPAC. It's very possible they were trying to take people out, including the president.
Well, this is now far-fetched. And the Uyghur thing is what did it to me. But let's leave that as it may. I do want to correct you on the on your interpretation of the Chinese woman that was at the press conference, because it's been pretty well documented what actually happened, at least by the right.
Oh, I saw it. So, okay.
You saw it, but you don't know the backstory.
Yes, I do. She was let in by the White House press corps.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Karl heads the Washington press corps.
Who's that?
He's ABC's White House correspondent, and he's the guy who says, "Don't act." That Trump said, "Don't be like cutie pie."
Oh, well, there you go.
2 press conferences ago, and he hates Trump. He just came out with a book about Trump. Just came out like 2 days ago.
And do you think ABC has any ties to China? Like Disney parks?
Let me think. Disney parks, China.
Disney parks, movies, entertainment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
John Karl took off the list because they're controlling the smaller group that they're doing these press conferences with, even though the White House is supposed to be in charge of credentialing. And they took off a guy from OANN, you're one of your favorite little guys, because he asked a question of the president about 3 weeks ago, indicating that most of the press members at the press conference were leftists.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the woman from OAN.
No, it was a guy.
Okay.
And I remember it. I very vaguely remember him doing it. I have his name somewhere.
I'm pretty sure it was.
So they bumped him, and they put this Chinese woman in. John Karl did.
Mm-hmm.
And this has resulted in, this is the same press conference where after the press conference, Fauci, at the very end, is the last guy to leave.
He winks at him. I saw it. Yeah.
Goes to John Karl and gives him a thumbs up.
So actually, it was a little different because I have that clip in the show notes. Of course, there's no audio. Everyone's streaming off the stage. Fauci's the last one to go. And as he's walking down the podium, he turns to Karl and gives him like a finger pistol, like "Pow, way to go, man!" And he winks back at him. But that only proves my point.
Well, this woman was planted, but not because she's showing Trump that he can be assassinated, like was the situation with the Obama.
Not assassinated.
Incidents. Well, no, they said they can always get to him.
It's a message. But it was a message. That was my point.
This was not a message. This was a message from Fauci. This was a scam. This is Fauci, ABC, the Chinese, bringing this woman in to bring up a bunch of points.
Well, you're saying this. You're I don't know. You're saying Fauci, ABC, China. It's all the same thing. World Health Organization. It's all the same people. They're all.
I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying that the backstory behind this is a little more complicated than just sending Trump a message.
I think you made it even easier for me. Because what have we seen from the media? One call from the Chinese leadership, don't say Chinese virus anymore. Don't say Wuhan virus. They all change uniformly. The Chinese are playing our media like a fiddle and all of our educational facilities. Of course, it's so easy. It's so easy for them to say, "Oh, you want us to close your park? You want to no more movies here?" And the chairman is not happy. And the people who say, "Wat je zegt ben jezelf." These are the same people who say, "Oh, people look at Trump as their leader, dear leader." And they're doing the same thing to their Chinese leaders, which is all corporate. But the ABC guy, he does what he's told to do.
Obviously,
I don't think that's a stretch. How that Now, one last little just kind of cool coincidence that I like. Fauci was intimately involved in the AIDS epidemic with Birx. And I'm going to be blunt. They wound up killing a lot of people with a cancer drug which had been tossed out because it was killing people, AZT. I think they killed a lot of people with a horrible diagnostics, horrible, just the whole idea was wrong. Also, never talking about your own immune health, which they're not doing again here. We can talk about that. But the big thing was we're looking for a vaccine. Fauci in particular is completely embedded in Hollywood. They love him. Elton John's AIDS party, Fauci's there on stage. He's been there for 40 years, so he's completely integrated. When they launched the terror campaign, the Fear Army, as Dr. Drew said, he was a member of Fauci's Fear Army during the 80s and 90s with the AIDS epidemic. They had a movie come out which set the tone for people regarding the HIV/AIDS crisis. The movie was Philadelphia with Tom Hanks.
Story. Yeah.
With Tom Hanks. Yeah. And when that movie came out, it was
Academy Award.
Everyone was like, holy crap. And the AIDS epidemic was at the front and center. It's just coincidental, I would say, that we all started to take COVID-19 coronavirus really seriously, including the entertainment media and the news media, just before the lockdown, when Tom Hanks, the same guy who started in Philadelphia, got coronavirus. Just coincidental. The same guy, two vaccine-oriented diseases. AIDS, basketball star Magic Johnson. COVID, basketball star Kevin Durant. Just interesting that there's so many parallels.
So you could probably go further.
You got any?
No. But you could if you wanted to, not if you're going to just start bringing these in. Yeah, the Tom Hanks thing is disturbing.
Yeah. So I think that this was a botched operation, and we'll see what happens with China. I'm very worried that Xi may not. If Xi's not in control, then we may have bigger problems than we ever thought of.
Well, I don't believe for a minute that Uyghurs have anything to do with anything. That's not going to happen in China.
Well, I haven't had time to research it, but Chenik told me very clearly. He said in the northeast of China, whatever province that is where the Muslims are. They're Uyghurs, and they run most of the military and secret services. I personally say, could that have anything to do with the Uyghurs in the concentration camp in the Southwest? I don't know.
Well, you know what you can look for, it seems to me, because you run into this with Muslims in particular, sects. Sects.
What do you mean?
You have like different subgroups within the Muslim community that really hate each other. And it's possible that there's two kinds of Uyghurs that we don't study or know anything about. And one of them hates the other one. And they're the ones, which may really explain why that southern group is
could be
jailed and then turned into slaves to be working in Africa.
I don't want to get too hung up on the Muslim part, on who's running it. I do identify that there is a plan here that China, the Chinese Communist Party, hates their own people. They treat their own people like crap, and they work on 500-year plans. So I think there's a possibility that this was a plan a long time ago. Maybe it was supposed to happen with SARS or MERS. Coincidentally, kind of the same story. Maybe it was AIDS that they tried. I don't know. But it's a hell of a lot more realistic than any other wet market story or anything else that's coming out of this.
A guy ate a bat, now I'm at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we've beaten that one to death.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have more beating to do, by the way, on the next show.
Oh.
Because this story's not going away.
No, and of course, just when we needed it, along comes the Global Citizen World Health Organization Together at Home Virtual One World Concert. You heard it?
Yes. Yeah.
Here is Lady Gaga touting, and this is so.
It has been an honor to.
So amateurish as usual. They couldn't even get a decent recording. It's just her with her Skype mic and everything.
It has been an honor to help with this huge broadcast event, which will take place on April 18th, where we need to tell the stories of and celebrate the frontline community, healthcare workers, and their acts of kindness. We will be on different networks, many networks actually, and I wanted to talk a little bit broadly about what we're going to be doing. What's very important is two things happen for all of us.
Oh,
we celebrate and
I'll stop it here then.
It's horrible. You can barely understand it. She's using that's a laptop mic.
Yep.
Doesn't she know any better?
So this will be the usual suspects. I believe it's she said we raised $35 million. It's not a benefit concert. It's just a concert to stay home and relax and enjoy. I'm not quite sure why but I think she raised it from the World Health Organization, who are one of the main sponsors. So that's where our money's going. You probably heard Trump saying that we're going to look into our financing of the World Health Organization. So.
Well, there was a thing this morning. I was just catching it. There was the cast of Frozen in New York did one of these things with 1, 2, 3, 4 4x4 boxes on the screen.
Yeah.
Everybody's singing various songs about the COVID-19, and then they said. Then the one guy comes and says, "We're going to do a special thing on April 17th. We're going to come out and do a special AIDS benefit for the. It's going to be called COVID-19 benefit." And he just said 2 seconds ago, it's an AIDS benefit. So apparently, the way I see it, they had an AIDS benefit plan.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, another, we talked about the vaccine industry that we uncovered years and years and years ago. There's another meme that we kind of drifted away from on the show. It happens.
And by the way, we're not anti-vaxxers.
Oh no, absolutely not. I am anti-RNA doesn't work from China crap. I'll tell you that. So more of these celebrities at home doing incredibly smart things with shitty mics, horrible camera angles, and that even goes for Kelly and Ryan. I thought Ryan Seacrest,
they're the worst.
I thought he would do a little better, but listen to what they're actually saying.
That's what people are ordering. One of the things I heard,
he's in his kitchen. Can you believe it? This is on national television.
Been over the last couple of years so much talk about nutrition and health and where your food comes from, but in a moment of crisis, people are going back to comfort foods, mac and cheese, canned meats. Mac and cheese sales were up 27% recently. So many people just want to go back to those things that are nostalgic and obviously easy to keep and easy to make.
We've made mac and cheese, I would say conservatively, 4 out of 5 nights, just because it's comforting, and right now everybody wants to feel a little. I'm not saying I serve that as a main dish. It's a side dish, but still, it's there because it just makes us feel normal. We just want to feel normal.
So there's your morning American television telling everyone, I'm not done. Well, hold on.
Before you continue, I do have to stop this.
No, it's for you. I'm setting you up.
Okay, well, you can set me up because I've already noticed an inconsistency. Go on. Play some more.
Here's a report.
Due to the spike in demand, food giant Kraft Heinz is adding more shifts at packaged food plants, specifically those that make, mac and cheese.
Okay, what did you want to say?
Well, not about the mac and cheese fiasco. This is stupid. No, what we had a clip about 3 shows ago. I caught the first of these many clips of these from home shows, and we had Kelly and Seacrest. And Kelly sounded like she was in a bucket, And Seacrest was still in the kitchen. He was in the kitchen. She's in some vapid room that's very boring. I'm noticing this a lot, which is great with the local newscasters. You get to see inside their houses, and you often say to yourself, oh, my God, this woman is leading a life of quiet desperation. They got nothing. They got a dead plant.
I always think to myself, no, that's her Manhattan loft. That's just a pied-à-terre. That's what I always think.
They have a dead plant, a lamp with the shade is bent.
You got to have your own book in the background. Otherwise, you're a loser. You got to have your own book in the background. Actually, I was going to say something different, and this is what I'm missing.
Well, no, I'm not done. So we had this clip between Kelly and Ryan.
You want to hear it? I have it.
No, the original one. Yeah, well, if you want to, but I can just explain it just as easily.
Okay.
Well, we could use the clip for a backup. Kelly sounded like she was in a bucket. Ryan sounded pretty good. He sounded like he was professionally mic'd by one of the studio guys. The clip you just played, they both sounded identically lousy.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody in the studio is going, well, if the ones we got to make him sound a little more like crap because it's not believable that he sounds so good because they're supposed to be working at home. In other words, they've scammed us again.
He was sitting. Okay.
I think that they're making this stuff sound as bad as they can, so it makes this. It's a form of virtue signaling. That's why there's no way in the world.
You give them way too much credit. In this case,
there's no way in the world that Lady Gaga's that bad.
Yes, it's that bad. It was just recorded off of Skype, and yes, Ryan Seacrest was standing in his kitchen with the vent on. So they're stupid. These people are stupid.
I'm in total disagreement now. Especially with the fan going, because you're right. I was wondering, they sound like they're in a boxcar. So he had a vent, something making noise, and he sounds like crap when he sounded really good when it first started. Nah, I don't know.
Here's what I was more interested in.
Mac and cheese, I know.
Not really in the mac and cheese part, although I just want to remind you, we laughed for years and years and years about the depression food after the 2008 crash. We were like, everyone's going to be eating mac and cheese. And again, something we thought would happen during Obama, it happened during the Trump administration. Just a reminder of some of the jingles we've had.
You slaves can get used to mac and cheese. Cheap macaroni and cheap cheddar melted together.
Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese. Hey, everybody.
Living the mac and cheese life. Mac and Cheese by Ayn Rand.
What is missing from our daily briefings? What am I missing from the Surgeon General, the weakest, most unimpressive Surgeon General I think we've ever had, Jerome Adams?
The worst.
I am missing not once have I heard, here's what you can do to keep yourself healthy, to boost your immune system. The first thing is, make sure you get out of the house at least once a day. We let prisoners do it. You need vitamin D. So get D3, take 10,000 milligrams right off the bat. Go ahead. You need vitamin C. You need vitamin A. But what are we doing, America? We're eating mac and cheese. This sets you up, along with anticipatory anxiety, sets you up for illness. It sets you up for getting sick from a number of things. It can even set you up to exert symptoms of COVID-19. That's how strong the power of thought is, combined with zero information on what you can do to keep yourself healthy while we're in these constrained conditions. That is the biggest failing I'm seeing. And that's not there is perhaps a policy oversight or mistake, or it's on purpose. I don't know. But then this is what we get. This is what so people are going to die from horrible nutrition in this period, and depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what we're doing here now, which brings us to that website.
We're anxieting people? Oh, we're trying to release anxiety.
No, we're preventing it.
Yes.
We're preventing it completely. But that brings us to this website. that I sent you the link to last night.
Yes.
I don't know if you have that. I'll put it in the newsletter with some examples of what I'm going to just talk about for a second.
It's also in the show notes.
Yes. It's in the show notes under what would be under?
Do you have it in front of you?
No, I don't. Wish it's on the other machine.
No, keep going, and I'll find it.
Okay, well, it's a website that gives you these variables you can put in based on a large survey, and you can tick off state, party affiliation, male or female, age group, and maybe one or two other variables, and you can put these things in there, and you start to see how much concern these certain groups have regarding COVID-19. And the group that shows the groups, generally speaking, that show the highest anxiety and fear are the college-educated, actually postgraduate, the people that have been in the system the longest, they've been in college the longest, Democrats, women.
Yeah, it's like 70%. Versus
it's over
35.
70 in some situations. Women from New York and California. And the one commonality that's in this, which is the college education part, and New York, the New York part of it proves the point as far as I'm concerned. These are people, if you can click it off and you can look at what you've clicked and you can say to yourself, this person reads the New York Times.
Yeah.
And this person is extremely anxious. They are beside themselves because they read the paper of record, what we've been talking about, the Chinese control, take it to an extreme, New York Times, and these people are physical wrecks. This is the most interesting. I played for about an hour with these numbers. I looked at, for example, you go to Oklahoma and pick a Republican, male or woman. In fact, in Oklahoma, the sex difference is almost zero, which is highly ironic to me. And the difference in their attitudes are almost identical, women and men. And they're very relaxed.
Yeah.
They don't have a care in the world compared to someone in New York. And meanwhile, of course, the New York numbers are way over what they should be in terms of deaths and hospitalizations and everything else compared to any place else in the country. Thanks, New York Times. You've done your job.
Well, it's the New York Times and the Washington Post. Both do China daily inserts. Politico. Who owns Politico? Isn't that Washington Post? Is that a WAPO property? Who owns Politico?
WAPO owns the Slate. I think Politico's independent. I could be wrong. It may have been pieced out.
Yeah, they signed a deal in 2018, working directly with the South China Morning Post. So they are in bed together with an investment and money flowing. That's the South Chinese Morning Post. That's CCP.
No.
Oh, please.
South China Morning Post, as far as I know, is still independent, and they tend to.
Okay, sure.
No, and they tend to. I met the publisher of that operation once. Malaysian Chinese. They're a different breed of animal, and they try to run anti-CCP stuff once in a while. I think the South.
Well, the Alibaba Group owns it, so I'm done. Done. The Alibaba Group.
Sold. He sold
the
out.
Alibaba Group owns it, so we're done. There you go. But I'm just making the point.
It used to be good. Used to be cool.
Yeah, but the point is.
So did the New York Times.
Yeah. Well, it's not since I've been reading it properly. I don't think it's ever been right. There's a silver lining for some of us people. There's a boomer lining, a silver boomer lining in all of this, and particularly for some of our producers here on the show. If you can program COBOL, you are in luck. And I say COBOL because it is COBOL, the language, not as the New Jersey governor will phrase it. He says something else. Here's the clip.
It's secondly in our list of volunteers, Judy, not only do we need healthcare workers, but given the legacy systems, we should add a page for Cobalt computer skills, because that's what we're dealing with.
Cobalt.
In these legacies. Chris Ryan's doing a heck of a job, but literally we have systems that are 40 plus years old, and there'll be lots of postmortems, and one of them on our list will be how the heck did we get here when we literally needed COBOL programmers.
Is that
He said it again.
Is that KOBALD? Is that how you spell cobalt?
I think he said cobalt.
That's what he said. Literally. Cobalt, like the element cobalt.
Yeah.
Now, this is something the president predicted. He said, I would like to do the unemployment money the same way we're doing the stimulus money, which is directly from the Federal Reserve. That was shot down by the Democrats, became a little bit of a fight. He said, okay, we'll let your local states do it. And of course, it's overwhelmed. We need cobalt. We need cobalt programmers. And they're not getting any younger. A good COBOL programmer is probably 60 plus. You got to be 65 probably.
It's easy to learn.
The Cobalt Cowboys. Yeah, but no one wants to learn it, and we need it now. We don't have time for people futzing around. The systems are breaking down. The whole country runs on this, by the way. Don't be fooled. The government, the airlines, everything runs on COBOL.
Because it's very reliable. It's a great language.
Yeah, that's right. But no one's teaching it. No one's learning it anymore. It's they're all, hey, Python, let's install Python 3 and replicate the functionality.
Yes, I can imagine someone actually doing that.
Well, we do have a lot of dudes named Ben who actually still program COBOL. So maybe there's a silver lining for our boomer dudes.
I have a clip I wanted to play before the break, but for some reason I can't find it.
Well, then in that case, I'll play one before the break. I think we're very fortunate. We have stimulus coming. Of course, it's going to be rolled out and it's going to be a bit patchy here and there. Oh, in fact, I got a note from the former New York banker. It's pretty funny. You might have heard that the Small Business Administration loans weren't getting out and there were hiccups and it's off to a slow start. I'm sure you heard some of this somewhere along the line.
Oh, yeah.
And who was the main culprit? I'll tell you, Wells Fargo.
Oh, well, duh.
But why? And the banker sent me a note. He says, get this. Wells Fargo is literally holding the payroll protection plan hostage because they want to use I wrote down exactly what he said. They are holding the PPP hostage to get their asset cap lifted. So for their own balance sheet, they were holding off saying, we can't do it. No, we're not doing any loans because they were blackmailing the White House to get their asset cap altered.
That's a good piece of info.
These guys are assholes.
I found the clip, by the way.
What do you have?
This is a clip. This is going around. This was recorded off a speakerphone, so there's going to be a little background noise. But this has been received. This is the coronavirus phone call that people are getting.
Coronavirus phone call.
An individual who positive for COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, has identified you as a close contact. It is imperative that you promptly take the following actions to protect your health and the health of others. Please self-isolate immediately in your home. Limit your contact with other members of your household as much as possible. Do not leave your home under any circumstances. If you are showing symptoms such as sore throat, cough, fever, body aches, shortness of breath, please call 811 to report your symptoms. You are especially at risk because you have a tiny wiener. It is so small and therefore you will become much sicker than an individual who had, let's say, even an average size or slightly below average size weenie because your weenie is so tiny. The CDC is reporting nearly a 100% death rate for people like you who have small wieners. This is especially troublesome for you because your weenie is the smallest weenie in the whole world. You have a tiny wiener.
Now, did they sell some erectile dysfunction meds with this phone call, or they just left it at
just
that?
Hang up on you.
I approve this message. Very good. Did you get this yourself, or someone else tape it for you?
No, someone found it.
I can't wait. I want to get that phone call. I'm not getting it. When I get a phone call from China, they're actually speaking in Chinese. Have you gotten those?
I've gotten a few. Every once in a while I get one in China. I don't know I don't know how to cuss them out or anything because I usually do. I usually tell them to call the FBI and turn themselves in immediately.
And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in cobalt, John C. Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry, and all the ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
Yes, in the morning to our trolls at noagendastream.com. Let me do a quick little troll count. Haven't seen how it's going today. We have 16 Soissonnef, 1,669 trolls all hanging out.
It's not bad.
In the Cobalt Troll Room. That's where you can go. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always someone in there. And listen to shows live, listen to all kinds of different programming. No commercials. It's all fun. It's all good. And you get to troll. No one cares. We love it, actually, if you do. NoAgendaStream.com. And a big in the morning to Darren O'Neill. Not only once again did he do the pre-stream for us this morning, but he also brought us the artwork from episode 1231, 1231. The title of that, the more I saw it, the more I liked it. You came up with it, Mass QR Raid. It was kind of Pulitzer Prize level, I have to say.
That's why I had to sell it.
QR Raid.
Masquerade.
Yeah, Masquerade. And Darren did a very nice piece that shows the different. He could have put Fox News on here, but he didn't. But I'm pretty sure you could have added them. ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN on the Chinese flag. And I remember there was something we wanted to talk about regarding the artwork because there was a lot. And there was something you were going to mention. I don't know.
Well, that's a cue for me to look and see if I can get triggered.
Recall what it was. There was something. Shoot, I have to go to a second page. It's just been flooded.
Yeah, there was
with
a lot of submissions. There was.
It's amazing.
Maybe there's some other violation. I couldn't remember. It was hard to pick the piece we picked because there was a lot of pieces that were kind of acceptable, but none that were that really stood out. But I don't know what I had something to talk about. You're right.
Well, we don't remember. That's too bad.
That's a shame.
However, thank you very much, Darren O'Neill. It is highly appreciated. Thank you for all the things you do with this artwork is always phenomenal. Love seeing that. And also, if you would like to hang out where information is not censored, where it is not taken down by algorithms and artificial intelligence, no blocking, no banning, no deplatforming, go to No Agenda Social, noagendasocial.com. You can get an invite from lots of places, especially the Troll Room. NoAgendaSocial.com is a great place for everyone to communicate. Also, if you're a Cobalt programmer, hang out with your COBOL buddies and find work there. There's lots going on. All part of our value for value system. And we love it when people do things for us that gives the show value because they receive value. And oftentimes people will just send us money because that's what keeps the show going, keeps the bills paid. We call those people the big ones, execs and associate executive producers. We'd like to thank a few of them right now for episode 1232.
And we do have a few to thank. I will mention something about the art, which is not what I meant to mention, but it's very hard to get us to pick art that has a personality's face on it. That's recognizable. I mean, if it's a political person, maybe, but we rarely use like a picture of Trump or a picture of Biden or Bernie.
Not very often, for sure.
Very rare. So, I mean, you're probably pushing your luck if you think you're going to get one pushed.
Here's what I remember. We liked the Windows 95 vaccine, but thought it was a little ghoulish. There was something. The Star of David. Didn't think
that's funny.
It's funny.
That's actually funny.
I don't think we put those on the recovered person. Yellow star. Jesus.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, but it was wasn't usable.
It's just sick. So that was kind of it.
It was your thought that got that.
Oh no, the one we liked, which you used for the newsletter, and I used a different version of it, was the Live from Gitmo Nation at Home.
No, I don't. No.
Was that the one we wound up using? You used the. Where did we use this? Hold on a second. I'm sure
I got to go back to this artwork thing. Let me take a look.
I think so. Yeah.
Life
at home with the little.
Where is it on the list there?
If you look at
page 1?
Yeah, page 1. Let me make sure it's page 1. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 down, all the way on the right.
Yeah, well, I'm on page 2.
I thought you used this for the newsletter.
No, I did not use that for the newsletter.
Oh.
I used the one with the mask, the no agenda mask.
Oh.
The one down a couple with the woman with the no agenda mask on.
Okay.
No, I did not. No.
Anyway, there's lots of great. Look at what we're talking about. We're talking about tons of art that comes in that we get to choose from. What other podcast even has new art, let alone 10, 20 pieces to choose from? So thank you, producers. Thank you very much. All right, let's thank our executive producers and associate executive producers.
Yes, we do have a few people to thank, starting with Anonymous. Well, there you go. 47678. No name or location. Thanks. This is to cover my PayPal VIG. Oh, you put some extra money in. Donating is love, and I love you guys a lot. Amen. Fist bump. Much love for Grimerica, Mofax, NAS, the Pentagon, and much and such too.
Amen. Fist bump.
Thank you very much, Anonymous.
Danielle Taggart, in Irvine, Texas. 333. There's no note from her. There's no email from her. I sent her a note to get some email from her. I've not heard anything back yet. So when it does come in, if ever, we will read it. Matthew Decker in Dakota Dunes, South Dakota, $333. He sent an email in, which I have. Matt Decker. He sent an email in with the note as a doc file. I'm a long-time listener, first-time donor from Sioux City, Iowa, so please de-douche me.
All right. Oh, hold on. Where's the douche? I forgot to turn on the hot water. Here goes.
You've been de-douched.
There you go.
Let me give you the jingles at the end of his note so you can do something while I'm reading.
Yeah.
Hey, citizen. See something, say something, and two to the head.
Okay, you got it.
You just have those right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to thank my friend Sir Bernie for hitting me in the mouth while at our own weekly meetup Tuesday nights. Our group gets together, has a cigar, a glass of whiskey, and talks about politics, current events, the show, and our lives. Sir Bernie and I are working on getting a meetup started in Siouxland once we are free from the current COVID tyranny. I'd like to call it my smoking hot fiancée, Brittany, as a douchebag. I think she's pretty good. I hit her in the mouth while playing the podcast on long road trips, and she got hooked. More proof that couples that NA together stay together. I'm going to contribute 33 of the 333.33 to her damehood, so please de-douche her.
You got it.
You've been de-douched.
I wouldn't have done that if she didn't have douchebagger. I would like to ask for some wedding karma. So this is as this Chinese virus may affect our wedding date of June 20th. I'm sure it will.
Ooh, yes.
Question for John. How is your blue phone working out? Great. Last I remember, it shut off and was put in a drawer. I always put my phones in a drawer because I always shut them off. No, it's been working fine. I don't know what that was that happened. And no, it's actually been even greater since I did some research and found some tricks that it does. Roll over. At the end of the day, you keep our amygdala shrunk, so thank you for that. In return, I shall continue to work towards my knighthood and Brittany towards her damehood. I'm hitting friends and coworkers in the mouth, and they are loving the show. Keep up the good work.
All right.
Hey, citizen. If you see something, say something.
You've got karma.
Onward with, what is this? Alex E.B. Trapp. 333.33 again. You want to read this one?
Yes. Well, here's where it gets tough right off the top. Please pay for our enjoyment the Trump al-Baghdadi remix, the fuller the better. And I was actually looking for it now while you asked me to read. I am boots on the ground in Colombia, South America, says Alex. As a rural resident, we can enter the town market 3 days per week, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. This is, of course, coronavirus rules. No one from town is allowed to leave their house, look at us funny, or cough in our general direction on these days. No kidding. The idea is that we continue to be healthy and produce food for all the urbanites locked indoors. My contacts confirm that U.S. presence has increased dramatically on the ground in Cucuta?
I don't know.
Is that in Venezuela?
I don't know. North Santander.
He's in Colombia. He's in Colombia.
It's a Colombian border town with Venezuela. North
Santander, which is a bank too. The Colombian border town with Venezuela. There you go. Since the Southcom announcement, that's they're surrounding Venezuela. Oh, this is good. Many Colombian cities have started to refuse aid to Venezuelan refugees during the crisis, and Maduro made a call for all Venezuelans to return to the patria. Keep up the great work, crackpot and buzzkill, even as a subsistence. What is a subsistence farmer?
Yeah, just getting by.
Oh, all right, mac and cheese. I have saved up to show you the value that you have given to me over the years. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Freedom and friendship, he says. I cannot. I'm going to give him a karma. I'm going to keep looking. I know what he means. I just don't know what it was labeled. So I'm going to look for it while you read the next one.
And we will get it to you as soon as we can. Patrick Williamson's next on, or Wilkinson is next on the list from Chicago, $333. Hello, John and Adam. I'd first like to call out my brother Andrew, who hit me in the mouth and is a douchebag. One of the topics I've discussed recently, that when the dust settles and the infected numbers and death numbers are not what was projected, which we've talked about today, the media will pivot to thank you to the citizens of the world for staying inside and stopping this virus. The problem is that, well, you've been listening to No Agenda long enough now, haven't you? The problem with this is is for the people that preserve their amygdalas, who told people that the numbers will not be what the media is projecting. Those people will give credit to the lower numbers, to the shutdown cower in place. The inevitability means that we will be shut inside our homes again, either on a bi-yearly or a yearly basis, which is, I believe, can happen, because it will knock the flu numbers down.
It can, yeah.
Because the majority of people will be duped into believing this is why the virus wasn't as deadly as instead of from the beginning, seeing that the numbers aren't adding up. And not giving into the fear scheme of people being infected and being rushed into ERs and put on ventilators. This is a frightening image when someone is on a ventilator. It puts an image in our brains of a person that would die if not for the machine, but they die on the machines. As we mentioned in the last show, 50 to 80% of the people that put on a ventilator don't make it out. All part of the plan to get everybody into a frenzy. Thank you for what you guys do. Can I get a Greta? How dare you? If that exists, goat karma, and we're all going to die.
So I was looking for Greta. Of course, we know she said this, but I don't think it's ever been a standalone clip. However,
we'll create one.
But there's good news. There's good news, because I found the Baghdadi song, so I can play that, and I can still play We're All Gonna Die. And I can do some karma.
We're all gonna die!
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr, Baghdadi. Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr. The United States has been searching for Baghdadi for many years. Baghdadi, he died after running into a dead-end tunnel. Baghdadi is dead.
You've got karma.
Baghdadi's dead. Baghdadi's dead.
Baghdadi. Oh, and I wanted goat karma. I'm sorry, I should have given you goat karma.
You've got karma.
There we go.
So, Sir Mark Milliman's from Longmont, Colorado, $333 here. I had no idea that, according to PayPal, I'm $667 short of being a Viscount. Happy birthday, JCD.
All right, well, you're almost there now. Thank you, Sir Mark.
He's getting there.
Yes. He's a baronet, so yeah.
Donald Barthlow in Lago Vista, Texas, 333. I was busy with ridiculous local politics the day I met Adam. I wish I would have made more time to fly the gyrocopter with him. James Peck turned me onto the podcast, and I've been listening ever since. The service you guys provide is invaluable to our society.
This is very interesting. Several months ago, before the weather got cold, I went to up north a little bit and found these guys I'm very interested in autogyros and gyrocopters. And they took me up and we flew around and, we kicked the tires. They weren't quite ready to, I want some instruction. It's a little different than aircraft and helicopter. And they weren't quite ready because they're just getting all set up. But nice to hear from you, Donald. And James runs the show over there. So I guess we'll have to hook up again now that the weather's warmer. We can sit in confined quarters and breathe some Rona on each other. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Interesting. Yeah, you've been jacked up about getting one of these things.
Yeah, they seem like a lot of fun, for sure.
People who own them say they are a lot of fun.
And they're incredibly safe compared to other forms of flight.
Brian Malinowski, $234.56 will be a first social executive producer. He wrote a note and sent it by email. Let's see if there's any jingles here to save you. I don't see one easy. I don't think so.
Okay.
It's been a little over a year since my last donation. I felt the need to contribute. Your continual analysis of the corona crisis not only keeps my amygdala small, but keeps me sane as well. No Agenda has been my only source of world news for quite some time. Oh, you're in good shape. I was reminded why this is at the beginning of this chaos. In early March, when the news first started swarming over the corona, that's another thing that's interesting about that website. It shows you where your concerns began, and this is only over like a month or 2 month period. Shows you at what level your concerns are, and then how they change over time. And all the New Yorkers. Many of them started very conservative, way down.
Yeah.
And they grew and grew and grew until they're freaked out. And there's a reason for it. It's not because of just the air. Anyway, the first started swarming over this corona thing. I wanted to learn more, so I decided to check out a few of the M5M news sites just to get a basis for what was going on. I was immediately shocked at the levels of fear-mongering that had just started. Like usual, I wanted to dig a little deeper into what was going on through some non-political websites. I saw the same reactions there as well. It wasn't until my first dose of no agenda corona deconstruction that I really started to see what was going on. Adam and John, you've done it, mostly Adam, by the way. He's really taken the coronavirus analysis to the max.
Doesn't work without the two of us, John. Doesn't work without the two of us.
That's true. It's true. You have done a stunning job with your research and analysis. The passion you both have towards your work is awe-inspiring. Thank you for consistently keeping me sane. Can I have a large dose of jobs karma for all my coworkers that were laid off in the last 30 days? I hope to see them all back sooner rather than later. Also, if there is time, is it not already covered again? Adam, can you re-explain how the former New York banker analyzed a financial recovery as a check mark as soon as the trillions started pouring out of the government? One answer I could not find is, where is this money coming from? Yes, well, how is it not going to cause hyperinflation, which is what everybody keeps pushing, this hyperinflation thing, including myself.
I'm in no position to explain it. I can just say look for the term immunized money, and the way they do it is they create this $6.2 trillion, but they're borrowing it for 6 months, pay it back while they borrow again. So there's always a $6 trillion or whatever we've created, spent. There's always another side on the balance sheet that shows where that came from, but it's not brand new money. It's immunized money. It's a magic trick. It's called modern monetary theory, and it has nothing to do with anything we've ever dealt with before. Magic money. It's like Japan. We're just like Japan.
We've got some bookkeeping magic.
Well, in Japan, the government now owns, I think, 75% of everything. The stock market, the bond. They've bought all their own. They're eating their own tail, basically.
Yeah, this is we're not doing it quite like the way the Japanese screwed up right away, and they put themselves in a bind. Now, onward with
wait. We had jobs karma that was going to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, jobs karma.
No problem.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Jeremy Cart writes next on the list, $222.22. ITM, this bag of deuces is for Sammy, Johnny, and the rest of us who've had enough number 2 lately. Request vanilla karma for the tribe. Thank you for your courage.
I like it. Here's some Van Karm.
You've got karma.
Next is Nate Wergau in Ann Arbor, Michigan, $204.33. And he sent a card with some drawings on it, including a caricatures of the two of us that are pretty funny. I will scan it and put it in the newsletter. And he's got, in fact, the whole card is handmade in the beginning, in the morning, 33. He's got the nice OTG song, and he writes, ITM with this donation of $204.33. I'm back on track towards my knighthood. This is thanks to my smoking hot wife, Sue-In. The coronavirus is shutting down my lab where I am pursuing my PhD, so may I please get some Corona PhD karma. We love you guys. Sue-In thought you would both enjoy the cartoons. Maybe she did them. I hope you probably did, looking at his handwriting. I hope you get a laugh. Keep up the good work, Nate.
Cool. I look forward to those. And thank you very much, Nate, and to your lovely better half.
You've got karma.
Onward with James Cornell in Wichita, Kansas at $201.09. And we got just 2 more, so hang in there, folks. Jingles, Reverend Alley's got the jingles. Is this very much? Klobuchar's ITM. Humbly request a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
I've been listening for about 8 months. This is my first donation. My brother Vince sent me in the mouth years ago. And I'm ashamed to say it took me a while to sit down and actually listen. Now I regret not doing so sooner. I can think of no better way to thank him than by crediting this donation towards his knighthood. I will give him credit for this.
We'll do that. Yep.
By his accounting, this should put him at the mark. And today is his birthday. He'll be 41. He's on the list. Please knight him Sir Daddy-O of the 7 Wonders and order him some mint juleps and mac and cheese, much discussed, for the round table. Thanks both for your courage, and please keep the infosainment flowing. James Cornell, Wichita.
Let's see. And just a regular karma. Yeah.
But resist, we must, and we will much about that be committed.
I think that sounds pretty good.
You've got karma.
Anonymous HCQ and $200.68 is our last associate executive producer. Happy birthday to you, John. Thank you both for keeping me sane and informed for more than a decade. With your approval, I would like to recommend a YouTube channel and a doctor who is saving lives with the hydrochloroquine cocktail.
There's a number of them out there, actually.
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
That includes zinc, which we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Plus different vitamins depending on your situation. We had long before this became quasi-controversial. Adam had dug up a clip of one of the actors from Hawaii Five-0. And this is like, I don't know, a month ago, that had mentioned the cocktail and had it outlined exactly what it was. And this was right at the beginning of this whole controversy.
Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah, Kim. And so there's a lot of these doctors are, the boots on the ground doctors have already been into this, and now we're watching these creeps argue about it. Anyway, just search for Doctor. He's got Doctor, I guess, his ban on YouTube, and his channel will come up. He goes over the specific treatments and use for the 25 of his patients. Episode 26, and in episode 31, his business partner shows 10 companies who make generic forms of hydrochloroquine and the other one, chloroquine. He also seems to really care about the patients, which is a nice bonus. May I have an orange scream and a shot of karma? Thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're on two different pages, actually.
Orange!
You've got karma.
Yeah, man. He just made that for me a week ago or so, too.
Yeah, it's popular already. Anyway, we want to thank all these executive producers and associated executive producers for making show 1232 actually happen.
Yeah.
And keeping us going because we're, got the same situation surrounded by mania as everybody else. And these people are really a godsend. Thank you very much.
Also, I'd like to thank the boys and girls over at noagendashop.com who jumped on the face mask bandana right away. We now have the new No Agenda face coverings at noagendashop.com. This is the one of my favorite designs of the No Agenda logos, and it has, so you can wear this over your face. It has, when you get a little closer, you see words such as "you must obey," etc. It's a beautiful piece. I'm going to be ordering a couple of them today. It's fantastic, and the way that works is another just beautiful piece of our value for value network. You buy anything from noagendashop.com, which we don't own, we don't operate it. The shop gets a third. The artist whose artwork is used gets a third, and the show gets a third. Eventually, we don't even track it. We love these guys that they're doing it. That's the difference between us and other podcasts. We don't live off the merch. We let other people live off the merch. That's an odd thing. It's odd how we do that when you think about it.
It's not as odd when you look at the books.
It's true. All right. Thank you to our execs and our associate execs. You are the producers of the best podcast in the universe. You did it once again for episode 1232. We look forward to thanking more people in our second donation segment. And remember, we're here twice a week on Thursdays, Sundays, sometimes the second Thursday. We'll be back in a few days. Remember to support the show at
Dvorak.org/NA.
Well, now at least you know what to look out for: hydroxychloroquine or vaccines.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order. Shut up, slave.
Shut up, slave.
Before we continue, I have an end of show ISO I'd like to run by you.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, do you have any ISOs?
In fact, I felt remiss because I didn't have any.
Okay, it came out this way. Someone sent it to me. You'll recognize the voice. It's the full clip. It's 2 seconds. Fits perfectly. Here we go.
I've got no agenda. None.
That's Mark Levin, the great one.
It's the great one, Mark Levin. I kind of liked how that came out, especially with the end there.
I've got no agenda. None.
Yeah.
Also sounds a bit like Gilbert Gottfried, oddly.
Now that you mention, I think he sounds like Gilbert Gottfried all the time.
Yeah. Anyway, possibility. Just letting you know.
I like it. There's nothing better.
All right. Well,
I want to take a little break. I go back to. Well, actually, no. Let's just stick with the COVID stuff for a little bit because I have again, we have the media that's pushing this. They do have an agenda and they're pushing it to an extreme. And I have two series of clips I want to play. One is the McMullen, the ex-Joint Chief of Staff's guy, is a Trump hater.
Yeah, yes.
He's always been a Trump hater, and I think a lot of it has to do with even though he's always associated himself with the Democrats, he was going to be Joe Biden's running mate in 2016 if he was going to run. He never did. And McMullen he's making excuses for the Navy. Secretary of Navy quit after he fired the captain of
because they got a sound clip of him bitching the guy out, calling him an idiot.
The guy a dummy or something.
Yeah,
I have that clip, but let's listen. McMullen takes a different tact on this, but again, he sneaks in a bunch of memes that I've been bitching about. So he's on the PBS NewsHour, and this will be the McMullen Navy Problems Zero.
has been a tough week for the Navy. First, the captain of the aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt wrote a remarkable memo requesting that he evacuate 90% of his sailors because of an outbreak of COVID-19. In response, acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly relieved him, saying he'd gone around the chain of command. Modly then flew to the Theodore Roosevelt off of Guam and gave a blunt speech, including this statement.
It was my opinion that if he didn't think that information was going to get out into the public in this information age that we live in, then he was too naive or too stupid to be the commanding officer of a ship like this.
Yesterday, after a lot of criticism, Modly resigned. To talk about this, I'm joined by Admiral Mike Mullen, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the George W. Bush and Obama administrations. Admiral, thank you very much. Welcome back to the NewsHour. How do you think the Navy has handled this situation?
Well, as you said, Nick, it's been a tough week. And it was very clear that the Navy couldn't get out in front of this early enough before the acting Secretary Modly grabbed it and obviously made up his mind to relieve the CO. And there were an awful lot of issues associated with that. All of that said, I didn't think that Captain Crozier's conduct rose to the level or even close to the level where he should have been relieved.
What Modly told us, told the media last week, and what others have echoed, is that Captain Crozier went out of the chain of command. He sent this memo electronically, didn't even CC his commanding officer, who was down the hall, literally, from him at the time.
May I ask you a question as you go through this? Why is this such an important story? Why was it played up so big? Because
it was played by the media.
I know. That's why I'm asking you.
Trump's a bonehead. He picked his Secretary of the Navy, and he fired some guy who wrote a memo that went public, and he never even CC'd his own commanding officer who was down the hall. Never mentioned it to him, and it was just a bitch and moan memo about how COVID's killing the service people, and we're all going to die, and we have to dock the ship and let 900 people off.
So why did they go straight after Trump? He didn't fire the guy.
Oh, we know he did.
I'm sorry. Wow. How's everything going over there at China FM that you apparently are working for?
He obviously did.
Okay. I didn't think so, but all right.
Well, meanwhile, of course, McMullen thinks that it shouldn't have been fired. And the piece of new information, which is in that clip, was that
it was right down the hall.
He could have just walked down the hall and asked the guy what he can do, but no, he decides to send out this memo and letting it go public. And by the way, the reason that this is so important, I don't know why. I have no idea why McMullen is downplaying it so much. You cannot give away troop movements and where you're located, your location, all this other kind of data.
Or your combat readiness or lack of it.
Or your combat or lack of it. You cannot make this public information. It just goes against everything that you're supposed to do in the military. But McMullen, no, because it had something to do with Trump. And by the way, McMullen, I think that the reason he's always hated Trump, and he does it very subtly, he's not really overt, although I do have a clip of him being overt, is because he's good buddies with Flynn. He was always good buddies with Flynn, but he was never asked to be on the transition team in any meaningful way, and never given a job.
He's a whiny bitch, is what you're saying. He's a whiny bitch.
Yeah.
Ugh.
He's like, these guys that Trump knows, and then they say they want a job, and Trump won't give them a job, and they get irked, and they hold a grudge. So let's go to clip one.
Okay. Here we go.
Command. He sent this memo electronically, didn't even CC his commanding officer, who was down the hall, literally, from him at the time. Is that criticism legitimate?
Well, I think that certainly Captain Crozier did not handle all of it exceptionally well. And it is indeed strange that he appeared to not have much of a relationship with his immediate boss, who was embarked on the ship with him. That said, I think what Captain Crozier was trying to do was what all CEOs try to do: take care of their people and watch out for their health and welfare. And obviously, in the middle of a crisis, and it was an exponential crisis. I think Crozier's letter actually was literally a cry for help and moving as rapidly as possible, because he was afraid some of his young sailors were going to die. He didn't do it smoothly, but at the same time, it didn't meet the standard, I think, where he should have been relieved.
And this was what news outlet who did this interview?
PBS.
If there was meant to slam Trump, it just failed horribly. I don't see any
he's
good
working.
connection.
No, okay.
Oh, he's
what
working
you
up
said
to it.
is an absolute. You're right, but let's see if we can make him slam Trump.
Admiral, you just said it's a challenge for all leaders. I have to ask, how do you think President Trump has responded to this crisis?
I think it's pretty well a consensus that we haven't acted very quickly. The administration hasn't acted very quickly. And from a leadership standpoint, when you're in a crisis, there's nobody more critical than a leader at every single level of government or the chain of command or in any organization. And I think it's really important that what the president says, how he says it, in addition to what he does. Leaders need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I think that's really critical for the country and actually for the world.
In this case, he's talking about the Rona. That's the slam he's working in there.
Yeah. Here we go again. First of all, he says, of course, Trump didn't do enough soon enough, which is the theme that we're going to start looking for. You're going to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Because that's the last desperation they've got. But I think what you're going to say is that he still doesn't really go after Trump.
No.
So the PBS guy gives him one more shot at it.
And it sounds like you're criticizing the president. It sounds like you're suggesting that he hasn't done that.
Well, I'll let you deduce what you want to from that comment.
Lame pussy. Lame. Wow.
Now,
all right.
This isn't the only. PBS is off the rails, and they all seem like they're beside themselves with anxiety. I want to play 3 more clips. Again, this is Judy, and so here's what you ended up with in this situation. Arkansas and a few other states have decided not to do shelter in place, and for some reason, this has annoyed the media. Specifically the media. Yeah. And I think this has a lot to do with world governance or national government.
I think, if I may interrupt, it has everything to do with that. What they want is first the full Defense Production Act, so we can just boss people around, tell them what to do. And they want Trump to literally supersede the Constitution, although he has ways to do it, to create a form of martial law so that they can then call him a dictator. And once that stuff's put in, it never comes off that easy, this martial law stuff. I think they'd love it too much. They would love the control, and Trump saying, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And rightfully so. It's the Democrat, not just the media, it's the Democrats who want that.
It's not just the media, it's the Democrats. It's like it's redundant.
It's the same thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. What am I saying? Yes, it's the same.
What are you thinking? Mm-hmm. So here's Judy. Now she's got the governor of Arkansas, who's a really nice guy. And she's got him on getting him to explain why he's not going along with the program, why he is not having this public shelter in place. And he's an amenable guy. So he's just smiling and going, well, he's got a million good reasons. And she keeps hounding him, trying to corner him into saying that everyone should cower in place like everybody else. They should all be obedient to some great Uber lord. Play it.
To talk about some of the things we're doing in Arkansas, we have a very targeted response to this. We've closed schools, we've closed bars and restaurants, tattoo parlors, barber shops, hair salons, and down the list, a very targeted approach to it. In addition, enforcing social distancing, and I've set the example of wearing masks whenever you can't social distance. We go in stores, probably 3/4 of the people have masks on, and that's the kind kind of effort we're making to slow the spread, and it's having success. Yes, we went to over 1,000 cases today, but as you can see, all the projections show that we're beating the projections. We're flattening that curve, and our hospitalization rate is one of the lowest, particularly in our region. And so whenever we're having this kind of success, we will measure to see what more we need to do. If we need to do more, we will. But right now, we are pouring everything we have into this effort.
As we said, you are one of the handful of states that still has not issued a stay-at-home order to your residents of, 3-some million people, among others. Dr. Anthony Fauci of NIH has said he thinks all states should do that. We know a number of other experts have said that. Why did you decide not to?
Well, Dr. Fauci, since he made that statement, has talked to some of the governors that have not issued a shelter in place and say, you're doing the things that are complementary to what we need to be done. He was very happy with the path. And he made that comment the other day nationally whenever he was asked. I think they're starting to realize what we're doing is successful and supports that national effort. You ask about a shelter at home. If we did that tomorrow, or if I did it today in Arkansas, you always exempt essential services, which means that 700,000 Arkansans would get up tomorrow morning and go to work. They would go to the grocery store. They would go out for exercise, which is permitted in all the states. As I've pointed out, in Washington State has a shelter in place, but the marijuana shops are open. You can still go get your marijuana, so the exemptions override the rule.
Time to move to Arkansas. Although I must say, props to Justin the drug dealer. He does house calls, and he does fist bump. He's doing. My drug dealer is social distancing, is what I'm trying to say.
Judy's not happy with this.
We want to do things that actually work and make a difference in our social distancing. Our wearing mask is what is working in Arkansas.
So you don't think that by not requiring or ordering people to stay home unless they have to be out is not putting other people at risk?
No, I think that as long as they do what they're supposed to do, which is social distance, wear a mask when you're out, this accomplishes the purpose without doing something that really doesn't make a difference, which is acting like you're going to be doing something with the shelter in place when, in fact, everybody can still go out. People are using their own good judgment. The elderly are staying at home. If you're not needed to be out, they're not going out. And we're doing enforcement efforts. So this idea that just because you don't have a technical shelter-in-place order in place that you're not doing enough, please look at the data. Please look at what we're accomplishing, and we're doing as well or better than many of the neighbors that have those shelter-in-place orders in place.
You know what's interesting is that I learned that Austin, who are now trying to determine what they're going to do, and we have a fine Democrat-run city, they have their own models. They're using models from University of Texas, from UT, right up the street. So they're using completely different data to determine when we slaves will be able to go out in the sunshine.
You currently have shelter in place?
We have stay-at-home order, yes. Cower in place.
Cower in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Judy's still not happy.
Yeah.
Governor, are you getting what you need in order to treat the people who come down with the coronavirus in Arkansas?
Well, like I said, we have 80 hospitalizations. We have over 8,000, about 8,000 available beds. And we've eliminated our elective surgery. And so you can see that we have a lot of hospitals that are empty right now and healthcare workers that are empty.
Go fill them up. Let's fill up some nurses, John. They're empty there in Arkansas.
So everybody's empty. So she finishes up, can't get what she wants. So they put up, and I don't have the exact wordage on this, but I'll give you the gist of it. So they end the thing with a thank you, and then they put up a sign, a chyron poster right after the thing with some information on it saying, Arkansas's hospitals only have out of 60 in the 80 counties, there's only so many ICU units, or 40 short of blah, 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 blah. It was just this little nasty note at the end because they couldn't get him to knuckle under to this pressure. It was just a chicken shit report. This operation has gone down the tubes.
Well, where it's at now, and this is what you talked about earlier, and is now, and Trump is not addressing it properly. He's just pretending they're not saying it. And that is this whole idea of the antibody test. And this is what's being touted by many governors as, here's how we get back to work. By testing people for antibodies, those people can then, which means you've either had it or you're immune from it. You didn't even know it if you did. And then those people will be able to go back to work and to public life. And that is not the way to do it, but that's what they're pushing for. And he's got to find some way to stop that, to nip that in the bud, or we'll never get out.
Yes, I think your original thesis about the Jewish star
it'll be
they're headed that way if they don't somebody doesn't stop it, and Trump hasn't found a mechanism to do that.
Well, this is what's happening in the European Union. The European Union, every country now is they have a whole EU-wide back end for everybody's apps for the tracking, which of course we've always built into our general data protection rules. We've always built in to make sure that, we could have some flexibility in case of an emergency. So, fuck you with your privacy. We're just going to track you everywhere we want. The social distancing is in place, but everyone will get a certificate. They call it the passport. And the passport will show if you've been vaccinated, which we don't have yet, or the passport will show that you are thus no longer contagious because you've had the antibodies. And otherwise, you're not going out, according to these globalist people.
Well, they're trying to pull another fast one. I admire their tenacity. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, well, they're having a problem on the finance side. This is where Europe is falling apart.
So after 16 hours of talks, there was no agreement among the 19 finance ministers. The member states have been divided over developing a credit line through the European Stability Mechanism, and that did not change. This remains the biggest issue when it comes to finding a new economic stimulus for the Eurozone. And in this context, I actually got hold of a draft statement that the ministers were putting together overnight. And at one point, this joint statement was reading, and I quote, "Afterwards, Euro area member states would strengthen economic and financial fundamentals consistent with the EU economic and fiscal coordination and surveillance frameworks." And this quote is, essentially the Italians are particularly against this idea and this language. They're worried that it might fuel anti-EU rhetoric back home.
You think?
And we actually heard from Matteo Salvini, the former deputy prime minister of Italy and leader of the Lega party, saying yesterday that he's essentially against the idea of getting further loans from the ESM, that he doesn't trust any loans coming from the EU, and he does not want any help from Brussels or Berlin in this context.
Translation is the finance ministers, and there's, there should be 27 or 28 of them, but I guess the main ones, all sat down and said, okay, how are we going to do what America did? Do we have a magic money trick where we can create some moolah, some euros, so that we can give that to Italy mainly? I'd just say mainly Italy, because if Italy goes down, the whole union falls apart. It'd be the largest crash in history. And they can't agree on how to do it because most countries don't have any money. They certainly don't have the capability to create the magic money the way we do, or at least they're not smart enough, or I don't know, they can't hoodwink people, and now they can't agree on who's going to pay to bail out Italy. Germany doesn't want it, and the Netherlands doesn't want it, and most other countries don't want it, so they're stuck.
This is the problem they have just from right at the base. The dollar's getting stronger. Even after they told about the trillions. We're now to $1.08 for the euro, which is getting there, getting back to parity, which is interesting.
Where it should be.
And we're the reserve currency, so we have the strength to do whatever we want.
Yeah, like create money without
we're
it being
not really
inflationary.
creating money. We are
correct.
Immunizing money.
Immunizing, yeah.
And it's different.
So
ratings, you always say, "Oh, you're printing press, oh, hyperinflation." No, none of this is going to happen.
Yeah,
because we've got Mnuchin.
Yes, exactly. We got Mnuchin. That's exactly
Mnuchin.
Right.
They don't have Mnuchin.
Immunizing.
I mean, they
money.
had that crazy guy from Texas, the Greek guy from Texas, that was running Greece for a while. That motorcycle, wears leather. I mean, he's a little bit too much.
Yeah,
but he had kind of these sorts of theories, and he was a big promoter of that sort of thing. But they rousted him.
Yeah,
get out of here.
Well, I don't think it was set up right. They were doing that with Goldman Sachs, that whole Greece bailout, and I don't think they had it set up.
A mess.
The guy, Fangnouflakis, what's his name?
Jim
Gapagopoulos. Yeah, Gapagopoulos.
Gapagopoulos.
He has the right idea, and he's written books about it, but he just can't. The system wasn't set up. Now we just have it. It's magic. It's magic money. It's a beautiful thing.
So I have talking about people going in and out of their doing the work from their homes.
As an aside,
yeah,
I think the president should move towards new metrics. If I may recommend, he should go towards lives saved. Do you remember Obama had jobs saved or created?
Yeah.
So I think we should do lives saved or created, either way.
You can come up with the exact way to do that if you think about it.
How many people he has saved? That's what I'd recommend. Get a live saved.
So he'd go for that one.
Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't do it.
So I have 2 clips from The View since you've dropped the ball.
No, I actually have a clip from The View.
Oh no!
I didn't drop the ball at all, but thanks for being as your typical self.
Well, do you have the control room gaff?
No, I have a completely different clip from you.
Okay, well, I have 2, not from me, for me. I have 2 clips from the View, and I want to play one of them. It's a little long. It's 57 seconds.
Oh, my God. Can we handle it?
Well, from The View, to me, that's long.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't from The View itself, but this is like, do these people have any sense of decorum or good taste? Or
these women of The View?
Do they? Well, yes. I mean, it's a rhetorical question.
Yes.
Do they have any sense of what is in good taste and what's in bad taste, and do they have a sense of what's actually going on in this country? That everybody locked down and worried sick? Because I wouldn't think so if I listened to the introduction, the happy intro that they play at the beginning of the show.
A brand new View starts live right now. Shamed into shutdown, Governor Ron DeSantis bows to mounting pressure and imposes a 30-day lockdown in the Sunshine State. Will other governors follow suit? Plus, New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell is live with her plan to stop the city's mounting rate of coronavirus deaths, including having residents who don't stay home arrested. And the physician who survived contracting Ebola, Dr. Craig Spencer, takes you inside the emergency room of New York's desperate battle with the pandemic and shares what scares him most about COVID-19. Let's fire up Hot Topics with Whoopi, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
Wow.
Did you find that subtly offensive the way I did?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those announcers that has the smile on her face and the chuckle in her voice.
Let's find out how many people have died today on the charts. Yeah, whoopee.
Yeah, you could, yeah. I was taken aback by that intro.
I agree. Well, of course, we open our show the same way, too.
Yeah, but we are actually up tempo, and we don't have dour news.
Let's see if we can do it. It would be something like,
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
What's going to happen? How many people will die? We're so excited to tell you all about the death and destruction today on No Agenda.
This is No Agenda.
We could do it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it'd be better with a chipper girl's voice, though.
Yes, yeah. Jennifer Buchanan. Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer could do it.
She's our go-to now.
She hasn't got enough work to do.
She's the voice.
We'll give her this job.
She is the voice.
We don't even have to write a script for her. She could do it all.
Oh, yeah.
So so now they got the control room. They named a woman at the beginning, Latoya, or whatever her name is. And Whoopi introduces her, and the control room's in her ear. They've got an IFB in Whoopi, and we end up with this funny control room gaffe segment.
To try to get the Big Easy through one of the toughest times in modern history, please welcome Mayor Latoya Cantrell. Good morning, Madam Mayor. We know that y'all are thank you, that y'all are really struggling down there because, all these hospitals around the country are running out of equipment and supplies. And I'm sorry, I called you Latoya. I meant Latanya. My bad. What are your biggest concerns? Oh, everybody stay out of my ear. Anywho, what are your biggest concerns?
They're always talking to the host because the whole show is scripted.
Yeah. So somebody's got his hair up their ass in the control room. Her name was Latanya, and they're yakking at her, so she's starting to fumble. Yep. And then so she finally corrects herself and says Latanya, and the woman says, "No, I'm Latoya."
They had another gaffe, which now that you mention this, I'm pretty sure the control room tried to jump in on this one as well. And the reason it's funny is because from Whoopi it comes from an obvious place of hate. She hates Trump. She hates everything about him, everyone around him. So she would like to see a new Surgeon General. I would too, frankly, because Jerome Adams is not cutting it at all. But she would like to see a new Surgeon General, and she has an idea.
And Dr. Jill becomes the Surgeon General, his wife. Joe Biden's wife, because he would never do it, but she's a hell of a doctor. She's an amazing doctor.
I thought she was a doctor and PhD. Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Maybe I think she's a teacher, but
she's a professor in education.
Yeah, PhD in education. She's a hell of a doctor.
Hell of a doctor. Doctor. Make her the Surgeon General. Hell of a doctor. Idiot. I have a couple more funny little bits I wouldn't mind sharing with you before we thank some more donors. During yesterday's press conference, the briefing, one of the younger millennial journos, and I think Trump actually took a liking to this guy because he had a reasonable question before this, but this was his second follow-up question. It was quite entertaining.
So one of the biggest rating hits of the coronavirus, aside from these briefings, has been a show on Netflix called Tiger King. Yeah. And the man who's the star of this is a former zoo owner who's serving a 22-year prison sentence. He's asking you for a pardon, saying he was unfairly convicted. Your son yesterday jokingly said that he was going to advocate for it, and I was wondering if you've seen the show and if you have any thoughts on pardoning Joe Exotic.
Which son? It must be Don.
It was.
I had a feeling it was Don. Is that what he said? I don't know. I know nothing about it. He has 22 years for what? What did he do?
He allegedly hired someone to murder an animal rights activist, but he said that he didn't do that, and he was.
You think he didn't do it? Are you on his side?
Are you
recommending a pardon?
No, I'm not advocating anything.
As a reporter, you're not allowed to do that. You'd be criticized by these. Would you recommend a pardon?
I'm not weighing in on time.
I don't think you would. Go ahead. You have a question?
Like Joe Exotic.
I'll take a look. Is that Joe Exotic? That's Joe Exotic.
Hey, I did call the hit of the season, did I not? Made it all the way to the White House. Oops, hold on. And then a career ending. Trump has gotten good with the journos. I have to say, and maybe it's because it's a different string of them now. It's only a few of them. It's not as crowded. Even Jim Acosta was quite civil, and he had good discourse. And but you still got to bring your A game when you want to ask the president a question.
Just checking on oil again today. I was wondering.
Oil?
Yeah.
Where is it today?
Well, I was wondering if you.
No. Where's the price? Give me the price.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
How can you ask a question when you don't know the price?
But I'll look it up for you.
Okay, let me do somebody else. Go ahead.
So you were highly.
Boom.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with him.
Career ending in my book. Let me ask you about the oil.
Simplest question there is.
He could have endeared himself to the president in that moment. He said, "Hey, man, it's like all you have
to do is, if you're keeping up at all, you could say the following: 23 last time I looked.
It's up to almost 30 now because Russia made some announcement this morning.
Yeah, this is, by the way, they claim that that when the market went up yesterday, I guess, or the day it went up when it wasn't expected to, and they said it's because Bernie pulled out of the election. So the market is that sensitive to Bernie.
Bernie pull out, doubtful. No, the money's
crude
in.
oil is 23 as we speak. So I was just guessing was.
I saw 28 this morning, so maybe it went down.
Maybe looking at Brent.
It could be. I mean, if you really look at it, you can get oil for almost $0. In fact, it's some spot prices are trading negative. Negative. It's negative price for oil, which you guys joked about on DH Unplugged. It's actually happening. Hey, I'll pay you to
here is still $4, so there you go.
Yeah, I'll pay you to take this off my hands. Final thing.
Well, it costs money to store it, so maybe it could be a negative.
It's negative. It's negative oil. What a great world. We got money, immunized money, and negative oil, everybody.
Yeah, whatever happened to peak oil? They dropped the ball on that one. Another crock of crap.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're right. The United States Postal Service came up in a, of course, way that was meant to trap the president. But he deftly got out of it and gave us a little info, some insight into something I was unaware of.
Congressman Jerry Connolly, a Democrat from Northern Virginia, told the local D.C. CBS station that you personally requested the CARES Act stimulus bill be stripped of $25 billion for the Postal Service. Connolly claims that unless the USPS gets that $25 billion, the agency will be run out of money by June. He accuses you of hastening the demise of the Postal Service. Could you respond to that, please?
I'm the reason the Postal Service has lost billions of dollars every year for many, many years. I'm the demise. This is the new one. I'm now the demise of the Postal Service. I'll tell you who's the demise of the Postal Service are these internet companies that give their stuff to the Postal Service, packages, and I don't know why they're not, I don't run the Postal Service. You have a group of people, so-called independent people, and they run it. But these packages are, they lose money every time they deliver a package for Amazon or these other internet companies, these other companies that deliver. They drop everything in the post office. They say, you deliver it. And they lose a lot of money per package. And they have to raise their prices, but this Postal Commission doesn't do it. Now, we just got a chance to appoint a couple of people onto the commission, as I understand it, and that's good. But they have to raise their prices, otherwise they're just going to lose a lot of money. And tell your Democrat friend that he ought to focus on that, because if he focused on that, he could truly save the post office. Post office has been losing billions of dollars a year for many, many years.
I didn't know that, but I looked into it, and it is indeed true that certainly in more rural states and areas, Amazon, amongst many others, drop off the stuff at the post office, say, here you go, deliver, and apparently the money is not there for the post office to deliver that with any margin.
Well, I believe that's probably somewhat true, but the real problem with the post office losing all this money is that they have to pay forward their pensions.
Their pensions, yes. We know that. We know that.
Putting them in arrears right away. You get some new employee, and you immediately don't have to just account for his salary, but you have to account for his salary for the next 10 years,
right? And
you have to budget against it. It's really a situation that's designed to put them out of business when they really can't be put out of business because they're in the Constitution.
Yeah, in the Constitution.
So I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, and I think the president, he's mad about these types of organizations that run very inefficiently, kind of separate from the government. And another one that I don't have a clip. Another thing that came up was the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yeah.
The TVA. And he's like that because he said, how can the guy, it's a government entity, he says, which I think is true, or quasi-government, yet the guy running it makes $8 million a year.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that, but yeah, these are called Quangos.
Quangos?
Yeah, Quango. You can look it up. Quango. And these are things that have a quasi-government organization is the kind of thing of what it means.
Right.
And they get protection from the government, and it's a very interesting. The British are more concerned about Quangos than we are.
It's called Quango?
Yeah, Quango. Quando.
D-O. Quando.
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic. Well, we need to be this. We need to be a GuangoCast.
You could actually do the
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And the first donator to the GuangoCast is Sir Sean Knight of the Dota Off Lane in Kill Devil Hills. What a name of a town.
Oh, indeed.
Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. $100. Nicole Cook came in with a check from Placentia, California, and not listed here. It's $100. Is her desperate need for a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
It's written. She wrote it on the check, and so I can't imagine that it goes through a bank, and you look on the note at the bottom left-hand corner. It says de-douching.
I wonder if that shows up, if they OCR that and it shows up in your statement.
It'd be funny.
De-douching.
De-douching.
Was there any blood on the check?
Sanity a lot, but de-douching's a new one.
All right, good.
Chan Hendrickson in Carpentersville, Illinois, 9372. James
Wait.
Hawley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chad has a long overdue de-douching request, so we'll do that.
You've been de-douched.
In addition, he'd like to call out his brother Kyle as a douchebag.
Ooh. James, well, you just made it under the wire, Chad. James Hawley in Delaware, Ohio, 6969. He needs a de-douching too.
You've been de-douched.
And
he, yes, he wants to call out Michael for being a douchebag.
Oops.
Douchebag. Huh. Joe DuPont in Towanda, Pennsylvania, 6868. See, we have anything on here? No,
I'm looking.
Martin Waller in Berlin, Deutschland, 6868. Well, that's nice. We have some, we'll get you a jobs karma at the end. Sir Rob Knight of the Philanthropic Shareholders and the Shareholders Federation in Leiden, Holland, 68. Yep. Sir Miles Comer in Walnut, California, 68. Oh, these are all 68. I'm going to read them off one after another. These are my birthdays.
It's your birthdays. People love you.
My birthday.
Love you.
Sir Miles Comer, Gerald Preston in Bennington, Nebraska. Stephen, is it Schnuel? Schnuel in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Alina Avarvar. This is a Dutch name, so you can read it.
It's not a Dutch name. It's
she's in Leidschendam.
Leidschendam, yeah. But I think Avarvare is got to be something else. Thank you, Alina.
Thank you. Alan Schaff in St. Paul, Minnesota. Baroness Monica in Drayton Valley, Alberta, Canada, which I used to comment on years ago, and I don't anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. Sir Kevin McLaughlin, Earl of Luna in Locust, North Carolina, 68. They got great names for towns in North Carolina, I have to say. We've got a title change coming up for him.
I do.
Sir Midnight of the Rivers in Gulf Breeze, Florida. David Walsh in Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. Sir Latte, Knight of the Bremellos in Bremerton, Washington, 68. Andrew McPeak in Grahana, Ohio. Work is very much appreciated. Melchior van der Decken in Moravia.
Melchior, I think.
Probably. Czech Republic. David Wynn in Rockville. It says Century, but it was a Century, maybe. New York. Colleen Garrett in Cary, North Carolina. Nicholas Robinson in Dracut, Massachusetts. Sir Carl with a K in Rochester, New York. Thomas Gardner in Wilmington, North Carolina. Joe in somewhere Montreal, Quebec. Dan Pinkerton in Chula Vista. Good list here. Thank you.
Great list. In
Chula Vista. Daniel Langman in Victoria, BC. Jennifer Tegnerud in Reno. Jacob Smith, Seattle, Washington. Dame Isabel Pearson in Manchester, Lancashire, UK. Jacob Honan in Chico, California. Ron Pointer in Union, Kentucky, and that concludes our group of well-wishers for my birthday.
Nice list. So nice of everybody.
Yeah, for the second go-round. John Tierney, meanwhile, 6799. You can throw a penny in, according to him, and give me my birthday number. Thompson, Connecticut. Dame Nurse Caitlin of the Flat Earth in Goldsboro, North Carolina, 55.
I would like to read her note.
Yes.
Greetings from Dame Nurse Caitlin of the Flat Earth. Just wanted to share my current situation with COVID-19. I work at a hospital about an hour from the RDU area. What is RDU? North Carolina. As of today, our census...
Raleigh-Durham.
There you go. As of today, our census hospital-wide is so low that multiple floors are being combined into one. No one is technically being laid off at this point, but due to the amount of extra staff, we are told to anticipate not working full-time hours over the next few weeks. Isn't that interesting, she says. They also say that the models show our area will see the peak in COVID cases over the next few weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. ITM to you, gentlemen, all the other knights and dames. And thank you very much, Dame Nurse Caitlin of the Flat Earth. We love getting these updates. Very consistent. We hear this a lot. We're being sent home. There's no work. There's nothing to do. Very consistent. And thank you for your courage. Because regardless of whether you're not doing anything now, you are on the front lines for everybody's health. We appreciate
even
nurses.
when it's reported that nothing's going on, like on the report earlier with the governor of Arkansas, they get irked about it. The media does. They don't want to talk about it at all. And then if you post something on YouTube, as we've seen, it gets pulled down. So
yep.
The next one is it Rudolph Grahn in Jersey City, New Jersey, 5510?
Yeah, that sounds right. Rudolph Grahn.
He's a Sir Fomer. Sir Fomer is what is really Sir Fomer Brahman.
Oh, of course we know Sir Fomer Brahman.
Yeah, Sir Fomer. Sam. No, it's just Garcia in Valrico, Florida, 5510. Jeff Gibbs in northern, quote unquote, Minnesota, 5510 means he lives in the sticks. Both of those guys have got a birthday on the list. They're on the birthday list.
Yeah.
Robert Case in Mill Spring, North Carolina, 55. Now we got $50 donors, name and location. That'll wrap it up. Not that many. Maryland Plaza. That's a name, really?
I guess.
Garwood, New Jersey. That's a great name. Nick M. in Berlin, another Deutschlander. Oh, this set two guys from Berlin today.
Yep. Berlin is trending.
Berlin is trending. If anyone can visit Berlin, go do it. It's really a pretty place. We're actually more interesting than pretty. Jonathan Meyer in Xenia, Ohio. Michael Rohrer in Powell, Ohio.
And that's
Larry Hay.
I'm sorry, he's rebuking his buddy Jim from Ohio, calling him a douchebag. So he got you back, Jim.
A rebuke donation.
That's right.
I rebuke thee. Larry Hay in Mooresville, North Carolina. Edward Mazurek in Memphis, Tennessee. Mary Huey. I love that name, Mary Huey. Mary Huey. Parts unknown. And Drew Mochak in El Cerrito, California, over here by me. I want to thank all these folks for supporting us and show 1232. Don't forget, we do have an Easter Sunday coming up on the next show, and we will have a special executive producer ship for the Easter Sunday special, the Easter Sunday COVID special. Which will be next Sunday. Will be the amount and the details will be in the newsletter. So sign up if you're not on it already.
Excellent list, and thank you all so much for supporting the show. This is the only way it works. You produce, you get what you pay for. And there it is. We're bringing our A game every single show we do, and thank you for supporting it. Dvorak.org/NA is where you can support the show. Again, thanks to all of our executive and associate executive producers for today's show who can use those titles anywhere they want. And a big thank you to everybody who came in under $50, typically for brevity, so we have some time left over for show, but also people like to stay anonymous, or they may be on some of our multiple subscription programs. Consider doing that, and all you have to do to figure it out is go to
Dvorak.org/NA.
For everyone who needs it.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
It's your birthday.
Yeah, today is the 9th of April, 2020. Short list. Vince Cornell celebrated on the 6th, so a belated happy birthday. Sam Garcia says happy birthday to his smoking hot girlfriend, Christina, and she celebrates on the 11th. And Jeff Gibbs says happy birthday to his brother, Rick Gibbs. He turns 50, I presume, today. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe.
Title changes, turn and face the slave. Title changes, don't want to be a douchebag.
One upgrade for today as Sir Kevin McLaughlin, the Earl of Luna, changes and upgrades with his title and his name. Thank you. That is through another very generous aggregate of donations. He upgrades to Duke, and he will be now and for henceforth known as Duke of Luna and Solus. And thank you very much for your courage, and we appreciate that very much. We do have one knighting for today, so you can just get your blade.
Here you go.
We'll do it real swift there. And we need Vince Cornell to step up on stage. Vince, if you can join us, please. Next to the lectern here, you see the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames, the royalty you are now about to enter, my friend, because thanks to your support of the No Agenda Show in the amount of $1,000 or more, you now become a knight, and I am proud to pronosticate thee Sir Daddy-O of the Seven Wonders, Knight of the No Agenda Roundtable for you. We've got Hookers and Blow, Red Poison, Chardonnay, Mint Juleps, and Mac and Cheese, Single Malt Scotch, Early Times, and BF4, Onion Rings, Rabbit Meat and Goat Milk, Onion Rings and Ice Cream. We've got Vodka and Vanilla. We've got Breast Milk and Pablum, Bong Hits and Bourbon, Ginger Ale and Gerbils, Bong Hit, Sparkling Cider and Escorts. Well, of course, we always have mutton and meat. So I'll just get the mutton and mead ready for you. And if you, the freshly minted Sir Daddy-O of the Seven Wonders, head over to noagendanation.com/rings. Eric the Shield will get that out to you as soon as we possibly can. And thank you again for supporting the show. Everybody who missed out on supporting us and really producing the show, you can do it for episode 1233, the Easter special producership. You just heard it. Dvorak.org/NA.
Now,
I have one more topic related to the Rona.
Do I have a humorous interlude before your topic?
Please do. Let's do it.
Now, this is, I have to tell you this, and I am apologizing in advance for this, but these are Joe Biden clips. Now, the one Biden clip, which I swore we played on the last show, and I looked at my clip list, and I realized that we didn't. What happened was it came into the public domain after last show, and so we've heard it all week. But it's one of my favorites, and this is the Joe Biden, it's called the Biden 16 clip.
The Biden 16 clip, here we go. Oops, didn't load. Why didn't it load? Load!
The case where we've never allowed any crisis from the Civil War straight through to the pandemic of 17, all the way around 16. We have never let our democracy take second fiddle. We can both have a democracy and elections and at the same time correct the public health.
Yeah, this got some traction.
Yeah, it was one of his best. They've been keeping him quiet, and they keep his wife nearby, Dr. Jill, the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor.
And
the kick-ass doctor.
So now when we have him, he's down in the basement moaning and groaning. So he did a town hall recently. I only got 2 short clips from that, but they emphasize some of his little habits, how he presents himself. This is the Biden Ramble 1. Biden.
For example, kids, we have, because I'm running for president, we have Secret Service all around the house. And anybody comes in the house, they put on a mask and they put on gloves, and they come in and they want to make sure that we're not communicating any possibility of the disease. But look, here's the deal.
Hey!
I'm sorry, Vice President. You got to stop communicating. It's dangerous to the American public's health. Just the communication. It's a lot more dangerous than COVID.
So now he goes on revealing some facts about himself and his lack of technical capabilities. This is the Biden Ramble 2.
And here I am in my basement in a television studio. We've not done that before, so I'm trying to learn too. And an awful lot of stuff you're doing online, but you're kind of more used to it than I am. Whenever I have a problem, anything I have to do with my computer or going online, I call one of my granddaughters. They're the ones that settle it for me. But all kidding aside.
Yeah, that's the guy I want for president. I want that guy. Just call my daughter.
It'd be good for the show.
Well, it's not like Trump uses computers, so it wouldn't be that much of a downgrade.
No, I'm sure he doesn't know what he's doing either.
No.
You do your thing. My last bit that I have here will be a world roundup of some of the areas that we haven't discussed much and how they're doing. But
okay, good. Yeah, we'll wind up with that. Good idea. There is some kind of breaking news. And let me see. Yes, I would say it started. The news came out of Chicago. There will be a deep dive on this, I'm sure, on the Mo Fact Show this week. But this is the general idea.
Today, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said the Chicago Department of Public Health statistics show, quote, 72% of Chicago's deaths have been among black Chicagoans, though black Chicagoans make up just 30% of the city's population. Joining us now is Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot, you must have had a feeling that this was what the numbers were going to show even before the data was assembled with this overwhelming impact on African Americans in Chicago. Do you have any working theory about why it is?
Well, I think the reporting that you just showed, which is when you have all these health disparities pre-COVID, where you've got a disproportionate number of people in the African American community with diabetes, with heart ailments, with respiratory problems. This disease attacks and feasts on those underlying conditions.
I really have a problem when people say this disease attacks, and she said feasts on. It's totally medically incorrect, but it does make it sound scarier.
Diabetes, with heart ailments, with respiratory problems. This disease attacks and feast on those underlying conditions. And that's what we're seeing manifest in the numbers. I mean, it's breathtaking. When I first saw these numbers, I had a hard time thinking about anything else because I knew that this was going to land like a bomb and that we had to come up with some concrete, rapid responses to help people in these communities.
And there hasn't been any emphasis on this or even a word about it, as far as I know, at the White House briefings, which are the most prominent kind of public.
You know what's coming, right? Trump is literally killing black people in the street. I just want you to know.
Yeah, he's a racist.
That's what's coming. Trump is racist. The virus is racist. And here's this was on MSNBC. I forgot her name. Oh, she's a family physician. Black family physician, and here was her take.
What is happening is that black folks are getting infected more because they're exposed more, and once infected, they're dying more because they have their bodies, our bodies, have borne the burden of chronic disinvestment, active neglect in our communities. So when I look at it, it is because of structural racism, which puts us in the more forward-facing jobs so that we're more exposed and less valued, don't even have the protection that we need. And this chronic, the residential segregation that turns into employment segregation, educational segregation, environmental hazard segregation, all of those insults on our bodies have given us more of these so-called pre-existing conditions. So once we're infected, we have more severe outcomes from the disease.
I cannot wait to discuss this with Mo, because clearly.
Well, I've got a point of questioning for you to give him.
Okay.
Because they're saying, well, there's all these structural racism.
Epigenics, man.
So I go to a couple of places I shop at where I can get in and get out. And one of them is the grocery outlet in Richmond, California, which is never has a line. They have paper goods. They have a lot of crazy products. I really like shopping at these places because they have a lot of experimental foods. And in the places, you end up with a very wide range of people's it's just a wide range of people. It's a good mix. So you have Chinese, you got blacks, you got Mexicans, everybody.
Yeah.
The blacks never wear a mask. There's masks. People wear masks. About half the people there wear masks. All the Asians wear masks. A lot of the Hispanics wear masks. I've never seen, and there's quite a few blacks that shop there. Never seen a black with a mask ever. Well, I don't know if that means anything because I don't wear a mask either, but it's beside the point for the purposes of discussion.
All I know,
like you ask him, is that just the blacks think it's stupid?
Well, I'm going to ask him. I'm sure he'll have a whole rundown. What I have noticed, this is the story that they're presenting is not the whole story, because they did a full racial breakdown in Chicago and a couple other cities, and the headline could also be Hispanics half as likely to get coronavirus, according to their percentage of the population. Why is that? Because I would be kind of more interested in what are they doing that makes them less susceptible, if it's indeed an action you're doing versus a biological thing that you can't help.
Refried beans, man.
I'm telling you, baby. That's where it's going. All right, let's go around the world, John. Let's hear what is happening with the Rona worldwide.
All right, I've got a series of these COVID clips. They say COVID, and then there's some other around the world. I got a long thing on Sweden if you want to hear that, but let's start with COVID Brazil.
Very, very worrying numbers coming from Brazil, yet despite these concerns, despite the spike in new infections there, the president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, keeps minimizing the impact that the disease will have in Brazil. He continues to say that he's more worried about the economic impact there. And so he's attacking mayors and governors who have imposed strict measures in a number of regions across Brazil, insisting these measures should end. But this is increasingly putting him in isolation, politically at least, given that new polls are showing that a majority of Brazilians disapprove of the president's position on this crisis, and instead of supporting people such as the Minister of Health, who is insisting that Brazilians need to put in practice social distancing and follow the restrictions that have been put in place, for example, in the populous regions of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. President Bolsonaro instead on Saturday met with a number of evangelical pastors and decided with them that tomorrow, Sunday, will be a day of fastings and prayer to fight what he calls the devil of the coronavirus.
Okay.
I want to mention that this sort of this phenomenon of the leadership saying, no, we're not going to do that, and the public saying just the opposite or believing the opposite to be more important is happening in North Dakota, where North Dakota is one of the states like Arkansas that has refused to put shelter in place. And if you've been to North Dakota, you know why. What's the point? And but the public is demanding it. They want to be sheltered in place because the media has been promoting it so much.
Yes.
So it's kind of very interesting how the media is superseding the actual leadership.
Hello? What's been happening for the past 4 years almost?
Probably longer. COVID Colombia.
All right.
Here in Colombia, also the lockdown continues. It looks like it has been able to reduce the number of contagions. That's what the government is saying. However, they're still very worried about a possible increase or spike in cases in the coming days or weeks. The lockdown here will go on until April 13th, at least for now, but there are talks about a possible extension. A lot of the worry here is for Venezuelan migrants, and hundreds of them have started walking back to Venezuela because with the current lockdown, they haven't been able to eat or pay for their rooms.
An interesting side effect to this, and thank you, these are great. I love, well, it's sad, but I love hearing how other countries are going. Before this took place, around the globe, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France, in Hong Kong, in Wuhan as well, actually, in the United States, there was dissent. There were nationalist leaders standing up saying, screw this, we want the nationalist way, we don't want the globalist. All of that, shut down. Done. Completely silenced.
Yes, that's the idea. Let's go to France.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was all into myself. Yes, France.
Before the lockdown in France, Abdenour Azouz worked on 3 building sites in the Paris region. An electrician with his own business, he was in demand. But since the French government ordered people to stay home to stem the spread of the coronavirus, he's had to stop work. Now he's worried about the future.
The longer it takes to return to work, the harder it will be, because we'll need to restart the building sites, the work, the materials. Will the suppliers be available? Will they have the material needed? In construction, you're not paid for 60 days, so even if we started again in May, we'd not be paid until July, and we have bills to pay.
Abdenour's wife Salima is also concerned. She's had to close her fashion shop in central Paris and says even before the lockdown, her clients began to stay away.
The coronavirus has had a huge impact on the shop. My clients were very scared and didn't come, so our income plummeted. Our regular clients disappeared and the tourists, so economically it's a huge impact and I'm scared of the future.
On the city's near empty roads, some taxi drivers continue to work, but passengers are rare.
In a 10-hour shift, I've only had 5 passengers. It covers my costs, but I'm earning nearly nothing. In fact, I'm losing money, but what can I do?
As people stay home across France, shopping streets are quiet and businesses closed. People have lost trade, jobs, income and certainty about their future. The French government says that because of the coronavirus crisis, the country faces a recession, but it will try and support businesses and companies with a range of measures, including interest-free loans and special bonuses.
I love how France is just autonomous, you know. It's like not a single thing about EU. It's like they're doing their own thing. They don't care.
Well, I also think it's funny they have interest-free loans in a zone where there's negative interest rates.
They should be paying you.
The complaint about the little clothing shops is something that is annoying to me because there's little clothing shops that are all over the place. They're all shut down. But meanwhile, I can shop for clothing now at Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
I can shop at clothing at Target. I can shop for clothing at Costco.
There's your
So how is this fair?
That's your Agenda 21. That's the idea.
Let's go to a short report from Italy.
And there's more hope in Italy that the outbreak there is slowing. For the first time since it began, the number of patients in intensive care has fallen. Italy also reported its lowest daily rise in deaths in nearly 2 weeks.
Let me get the latest from Willow. Let me just double check what she said. Because they're about to lift their stay-at-home restriction. It's been 4 weeks, I believe, for them now. She said, okay. So she went out, first shopping experience with the mask, because those are required. in all of Tuscany. Rumors are soft unlock for some businesses will start Tuesday, but the plebs, is my sister, will not really get more space until May 4th because April 25th and May 1st are holidays where family typically come together and do outings like Easter. So seems that it will be, May 4th. And they'll be out. And they'll be released. With some social distancing involved, no doubt.
And masks. Get no agenda masks to her.
Yeah, we got to send some over. The bandana masks, they're beautiful.
COVID, Peru, Panama.
Peru is limiting movement by gender.
Absolutely. That's a decision that was made on Friday. Also, Panama is doing the same. Men will be able in Peru to go out just for their essential needs, buying food or medicines on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Women instead will be able to do it on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturday, while on Sunday everybody is expected to stay at home. The president there said that even if the measures so far put in place have had positive effects, he wants even less people on the streets, and he hopes that this will mean that half of the people that go out on a daily basis in Peru will go out with these new measures.
Oh, that's kind of my idea, is rotate half the people.
Yeah, well, that's one way of doing it. It also sounds like some, I think Sir Onimus of Lower Sobovia and Dogpatch would have something to say about that. He's cynical and sounds very Muslim-like.
Yeah.
Can't have the sexes mix.
No.
I'm talking about the Muslims. Let's go to Iran and see what's going on there.
Health officials in Iran are warning of a second wave of cases if people don't follow advice to stay home. Iran has reported that 158 people have died in the last 24 hours. There are nearly 56,000 confirmed cases in the country. Despite the warning of a resurgence, industrial facilities have been reopened. Al Jazeera's Zain Basravi is in Tehran and says there's been an increase in the number of people out on the streets.
In the last 24 hours, we've seen 158 new reported deaths from the coronavirus. This is the largest it's been in recent days. We've also seen 2,560 new cases. So that is lower in terms of overall infection rate than we've seen in the recent days, but the numbers are staying steady. And this is happening at a time when the Nowruz holiday period has ended. And what we're seeing on the streets of Tehran is that people are beginning to come out of their homes. They are beginning to return to work. There is more traffic on the roads. People are opening shops and businesses, despite the fact that the government stay-at-home order or stay-at-home suggestion to its people remains in place. The health ministry has said that this is a worrying sign, that they understand that people need to go back to work, that they need to continue to carry on with their lives, to be able to make money, to pay their rent, to be able to purchase food and just to go on living. But they have said that this is a worrying trend, and if it continues, that we could see a second wave of this infection. And they've warned against people starting to emerge into their normal routine. They're saying that the trend of people going to hospital for coronavirus has not gone down, and we are not out of the woods yet.
So it's kind of the same bull crap everywhere. People need to get back to work. We need to get back to life. This is starting to hurt.
And I have one more report on Sweden, which I'm going to move to Sunday. But instead of giving the good, thorough report on Sweden, I just want to drop it back to Joy Behar, who will give her opinion about what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on.
What she's saying is that...
Sorry?
But she has an opinion.
What she's saying is that people need to maybe make their own decisions. You know, Sweden, I was reading that Sweden actually has that policy. People are going to dinner. You see them in restaurants. They're out in the streets. I mean, they did not have a shutdown policy at all in Sweden. And I believe the numbers are going up. Somebody could check that for me. I mean, he took a risk, the president of Sweden. I mean, it seems to me that something like the example of South Korea, where they shut down the country completely, and now the numbers are going down. down, that seems to be the way to go. Maybe North Dakota doesn't have as many, of course, people as New York who are sick, but they could leave North Dakota. They could have the virus and move to South Dakota. Now South Dakota gets an epidemic. So I think that the president needs to shut down the whole country. Of course, he won't do that because it impacts the economy, and he knows that the economy is exactly what will get him reelected or not reelected.
Oh, my God. You buried the lead with this clip. What are you thinking, man? Okay, first, she's got it all wrong. Sweden is a mess from our own Swedish producers we're hearing right now. And somehow she said they shut South Korea down. No, they didn't shut South Korea down. And what did she say at the end there? That sack of poop. What did she say?
She said that North Dakota is not shutting down, and they should.
Oh, yeah.
And because one person could move to South Dakota, and then the whole state would go down. And so Trump should shut down the country, become the dictator you mentioned early in the show, so the left-wing media can condemn him for being a dictator. This whole thing is laughable.
What she actually says is worse. She says Trump won't shut down the country because he doesn't want his precious stock market and economy to be hurt. Joy Behar, take a civics class, lady. Please. And I can't believe... No, I can believe it. People like her, she should know. You can't... No. That's not how the United States works. You can't just say, I'm shutting it down. Stay at home, everybody. It doesn't work that way. They want it. I think they want the precedent or something like that.
They would love a national government. The Democrats have always been into a national government. The Bureau of the Feds are your friend.
And also one more thing, Joy Behar. Sweden has a prime minister. They don't have a president, you doofus.
Well, it's actually, when you hear the real report, it's not even the president, prime minister, whoever it is. They're not running the...
he serves as prime minister. Yeah, exactly. All right, then I have one last clip because I want to refocus everybody on what is being done to you, certainly in the United States, but it's happening all over Europe. It's the same thing. They want you to wait for a vaccine. They want you to get a passport for your antibodies. This must be resisted because these are all control mechanisms without even having the vaccine. So once again, I'll let the angel of death, normally that would be Fauci. Today, that's going to be Bill Gates. Explain one more time how he wants us to get back to work.
Well, we don't know how seasonal this virus is. It'd probably be good for the Northern Hemisphere if the force of infection goes down as we get into spring and summer, and give us some time to get both the drugs and advance the vaccine. It is fair to say things won't go back to truly normal until we have a vaccine that we've gotten out to basically the entire world. And so, the best people at the foundation who are all about high volume vaccines, are working with many manufacturers, not only on the safety and efficacy, but getting that billions of dose capacity. And so, like China, there'll be a partial opening up, which some jobs will resume, school will resume, but we'll have to be very, very careful not to have the rebound until the vaccine comes.
The vaccine is coming, everybody. Bill Gates is going to save you. No kissing. Stop kissing, slaves. But seriously, be good. We're all in the same boat. And I think we're going to be okay one way or the other. So please remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. We will be back on Sunday to bring you another, these days, 3.5 hours of infotainment. Seriously, don't look at anything else. It's just not worth it. We're doing it for you. I smoke a lot of weed. That's how I do it. Coming to you from Opportunity Zone 33 here in the frontier of Austin, Texas, FEMA Region number 6 on the governmental maps. In case you're looking for where to drop the body bags. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where there's no more Zephyr, but there's a few other trains and a lot of crazy-looking freight trains that are going by now and again. I'm John C. Dvorak.
End of show mixes from Fletcher, Starkweather, Leo LePuke and Ronaldo Gonzalez and DH Unplugged coming up next on NoAgendaStream.com. Until Sunday, everybody. Until then, adios, mofos! And such.
The virus is not his fault. Look, folks, I want to say good evening. So I'll just say a few things to the head start here. We should get on with this. Got to go faster than slower, and we started off awfully slow. You can't make things up. You got to stop. 3.3 million the week before. We should be making it easier, not harder, to make sure to make sense. I'll put it another way. It makes no sense. Here's the other thing. One of the things, you and I've been on your show a number of times. My generic point is that you should follow the science. Do what they tell you. Listen to the Faucis of the world. We have never let our democracy take second fiddle. They had very, very tight restrictions in terms of social distancing, et cetera, staying in place. Now it's coming back. You're worried about how you're going to make the rent. Worried about how to pay the bills, keep food on the table. Good luck to you, man.
If you do have a ventilator, what are your chances?
We are watching people dying of a disease we do not understand.
But hydroxychloroquine, take it.
I've talked to doctors all around the country, and it's becoming increasingly clear.
We congratulated ourselves for scaring the hell out of a generation.
I think now people understand.
This is some creepy shit he's doing here.
If you have a heart condition, I understand.
We have to change the protocols.
I doubt Savannah Guthrie can even find any state on the map.
It will be wonderful. It'll be so beautiful.
This is going to be horrendous.
It'll be a gift from heaven. It will be an attack.
We congratulated ourselves for scaring the hell out of a generation.
I think now people understand.
There's going to be millions of dead if we don't educate people about this illness and how it's transmitted.
It's so bad for the country, so bad for the world.
We are working extremely hard under extremely stressed conditions.
The ventilator itself can do damage to the lung tissue.
We congratulated ourselves for scaring the hell out of a generation.
I think now people understand.
Follow Dr. Fauci, whatever he says, that's what we got to do.
They have to knock you out put you in a semi-comatose state and then paralyze your lungs so you can't breathe and then shove this tube down your throat through your vocal cords and then push air in there using pressure.
We congratulated ourselves for scaring the hell out of a generation.
I think now people understand.
He didn't bring up to 80% death rate.
I know that at times it's frustrating.
She's living in a camper to avoid putting her family at risk.
It's clearly the Gates Foundation driving the data, driving the numbers, in fact, driving the narrative.
We congratulated ourselves for scaring the hell out of a generation.
I think now people understand.
The anti-COVID-19 Volunteer Drone Task Force. Please maintain a social distance of at least 6 feet. Again, please maintain social distancing. Please help stop the spread of this virus. Reduce the death toll.
I have 800 rolls of toilet paper. Took most of my salary. Those Charmin Bears must be billionaires, now wiping their butts with money. Sounds of UPS trucks, always in the street. I'm getting used to it now. Watched everything on Netflix, HBO, and Hulu. Watched all their shows somehow. There is no live sports or going to the movies. Can't even drive the car around. Always wear a mask when outside the house. No time for Wuhan flu now. Started to play my grandpa's old accordion. Still smells like cigarettes and brandy. Been taking lessons from YouTube videos. I might be decent someday. Spending time on Al Gore's amazing internet. Now I'm into really weird porn. I sleep in the daytime, Or is it the nighttime? This quarantine's a buzzkill like John.
The anti-COVID-19 Volunteer Toronto Task Force. Please maintain a social distance of at least 6 feet. Again, please maintain social distancing.
The flu is nothing to sneeze at.
Hey!
I know you, and I will fight for you.
Here's what I think.
I know you, and I will fight for you.
And here's what I think. I'm the President of the United States. I hold the power.
You just got a lot, Rich. This is extremely alarming.
Hey!
If you want to talk about being tough enough to take him on.
Hey! Don't be ridiculous. Who cares about the Constitution?
You just got a lot, Rich.
You better support me.
This is extremely alarming.
Hey, Governor.
This is extremely alarming.
I can do anything I want.
This is extremely alarming.
Hey, Congress, you want to investigate me? Don't be ridiculous. Who cares about the Congress?
I know you, and I will fight for you.
Who cares about the separation of powers?
This is extremely alarming.
Who cares about the Constitution of the President?
This is extremely alarming.
I have all of the power.
This is extremely alarming. This is extremely alarming.
I have all of the power.
Controls will have to be imposed. And a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Follow the governing rules at this time.
Crises precipitate change.
The best podcast in the universe.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
I've got no agenda. None.